Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel. Open mic number 144. Greetings and salutations, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well today. I'm going to have an echo. Hold on. There we go. That should fix that. But today, of course, I had planned to do more calls and so forth, but of course, KZ dropped a filing last week, and I was gonna jump on and do it live right away, but didn't really know anything about this guy, so I thought it would be better to let it sit for a couple of days and folks to kind of do their due diligence and find out what we could about this guy. And there's some information out there. Hopefully, there's more forthcoming from KZ, but we'll get to that here shortly. I'm not going to belabor that. We can talk about that in a minute. Anyway, I want to let everyone say hello and that's here in Discord right quick, and then we're gonna read this thing. It's not very long, the affidavit itself. So let's let everyone say hi right quick, so voices are recognized and we can be polite. So first up, we have Alice.
Hi, Jack. Hi, everyone on panel. It's great to see a nice full panel tonight. Hi to everyone in chat. Great to see you all. And looking forward to what we're going to read for KZ and have a discussion about it. I'm curious to find out who he is.
Yep, same here. Thank you, Alice. And from across the pond, Andy B.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's well. And I'm looking forward to tonight's podcast.
Absolutely.
Let's strap in.
Thank you, Andy.
No problem.
And Cherie, how are you?
I'm good. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Open Mic.
Thanks, Cherie. And then we have the camping lady, Susan.
Hi, Jack. Hi, everybody. I'm exhausted, but very happy.
Good. Sound like you had a wonderful weekend, so good for you.
Yes, thank you.
All righty, thanks, Susan. And then Sister Rhonda.
Hello, Jack. Hello, everybody on panel, and hello to all of our friends in chat. Looking forward to this one.
Absolutely. And of course, the lovely Lady Neverly.
Hello, Jack, and everybody on the panel and in the chat. Doing great, and like everybody else, looking forward to this one. So let's do it.
Ooh, that's right. And then, and Sunshine Christina, thanks for coming. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Hello, everyone on panel and in the chat. And I can't wait to hear the lies spewed by Manitowoc County today.
Thank you, Christina. And Doc, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you, Jack. And hi to everyone on the panel. And a big warm welcome to everyone in chat. I love a good Rav story. Can't wait, guys. Can't wait.
Absolutely. And while I'm getting this pulled up, Alice, can you greet everyone that's joined us on the live chat so far? I'm sure we'll have more to go, but give us a quick rundown.
Yeah, I sure can. We've got Under Your Scars. Hi, Under Your Scars. We've got Dark Side of the Moon. Hey, lovely Dark Side. We've got Kitty Cat Fur Babies. And we've got Pete Moss, Wedding Palette, Pete Moss. We've got Rumour Has It. We've got Justine J. We've got Debbie Doll. We've got Faradax. We've got Colette M. Hi, Colette M. We've got Iced Coffee. We've got JD. Rhonda's in chat as well. We've got West Virginia. Hi, West Virginia. Great to see you. We've got Graham Moss. We've got Bethany, Angie Dickinson, Nan's Life, Gloria, Katie did it. Hi, ladies. Lovely to see yous. Andy B's in chat. We've got Bethany. Hi, Bethany. We've got Rhonda SD. We've got the Mystic Jinx in the house. We've got, let's see, who else have we got? Gloria, rumor has it, Debbie Doyle, I've got them. Kelly McCallion. Hi, Kelly. Fantastic to see you back again. And I think that's all for now. If I haven't mentioned your name, I do apologise. It could be that you're just a wee bit further up in the list and I can't see you. So pop another wee hello in there, and we'll get back to you the next time. We've got Clive. Hi, Clive. Oh, you snuck in there. We've got Sherry Lynn Pontillo. Hello, Sherry Lynn. And Moss. Hi, Moss. Lovely to see you tonight again, Moss. You were in chat last night. We've got Lola Blue Skies. Hi, Lola. Nice to see you. We've got N4 Sim. Hi, N4. Nice to see you. Justine J Justine J has just gifted 5 Foul Play memberships. Thank you so
How
much.
generous.
That is
How
much
generous.
appreciated.
Very much.
So, Rhonda SD, and I think that's us so far. So, a few people that have been gifted the membership is Behind the Magic, Minnie Mam, Case 10, Maz, Ali Softball Life, and Debbie Doll by the looks of it. So, fantastic for that. Thank you so much. That is much appreciated. And welcome to everyone.
Thanks so much, Alice. So I really appreciate the gifting of the memberships. That's really generous of you folks to do that. You know, to people that we just try to present the information and let people make up their own mind. So anyway, much appreciated. So for today, we're gonna do this affidavit, and we can talk about it. There's this fellow has some social media postings that we're going to take a look at that go back quite a bit of time. You have to keep in mind this guy lived there. He was there in real time, way back in the day, 2005 time frame. So, and then there's a newspaper article by John Farrak in the patch, and we're probably going to read that too. So, anyway, so Rhonda, I put I put the link, or not the link, but the file for the affidavit if you didn't already have it in the open mic text box.
Okay.
Or you can read from the screen. It doesn't matter. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah, I have it, but if I'm going to read, I'd rather just read from your screen.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get this thing read. This was filed, as you can see up here at the top. It's filed on May 26th, and yeah, we'll just go ahead and let you read it. It's not that long, and we can go back and pick it apart.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Motion for leave to file an additional affidavit and amendment to Mr. Avery's current motion, which is pending pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 97406 and 80515.
Right, just one second. There's been questions, and maybe Travis or one of the other lawyers, maybe Cherie knows or whatever. I've been asked a number of times, does Judge Angie have to allow this? And my reply is, I don't really know, but I do think KZ must submit this affidavit, whether it's allowed to be entered or not. I think she has to do it because this guy's agreed to make a sworn statement, an affidavit per se, right? So
From what
I think you're right about that.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
it has to be turned over.
correct. So I don't know if Judge Angie has to allow the leave to step back to allow this into the record. Maybe one of the lawyers can let us.
It's a motion, and so it just like any other motion, it can be denied.
Right.
From what I understand. Yeah.
I would agree with Rhonda, probably. I don't know for sure, but I would think she would have a choice, but it'd probably be easier for her to just let it in and not risk having the higher court send it back down,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't disagree.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to point that out. Anyway, please continue. I apologize.
Fine. Please take notice that the petitioner, Stephen A. Avery, by and through his current post-conviction attorneys, Kathleen T. Zellner and Associates, PC, and Stephen G. Richards respectfully moves this court for leave to file the attached affidavit and amendment to Mr. Avery's current motion, which is pending pursuant to Wisconsin statute, and in support thereof states and follows. 1. Current counsel became aware of a witness, Thomas Buresh, on or about May 10th, 2023. 2. Mr. Buresh, who was present in Manitowoc County in 2005, has provided an affidavit as to his observations of Teresa Halbach's RAV4 and the occupants of the RAV4 on Friday night, November 4th, or early Saturday morning, November 5th, 2005. 3. Mr. Buresh's observations and identification of Bobby Dassey driving the RAV4 corroborates the previously submitted affidavit of Thomas Sawinski. I practiced that frickin' word. Thomas Sawinski, that Bobby Dassey was in possession of Miss Halbach's vehicle after her disappearance. Affidavit of Thomas Buresh is attached and incorporated herein as Exhibit A. 4. Mr. Avery seeks leave to amend his pending motion, paragraph 20, with the additional words, quote, Mr. Thomas Buresh corroborates the previously filed affidavit of Thomas Sawinski that Bobby Dassey was driving the RAV4 vehicle of Teresa Halbach on Friday night, November 4th, or early Saturday morning after her disappearance on October 31st, 2005, end quote. 5. Therefore, Mr. Avery moves this court for leave to file the attached affidavit, Exhibit A, to Mr. Avery's current pending motion pursuant to Wisconsin statutes and to amend his pending motion. Respectfully, Kathleen T. Zellner. Affidavit, did you want me to read?
Please.
Okay. Affidavit of Tom Buresh. Now comes your affiant, Tom Buresh, and under oath hereby states as follows. 1. I am of legal majority and can truthfully and completely testify to the matters contained herein based upon my personal knowledge. The factual statements herein are true and correct to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief. I am of sound mind and I am not taking any medication nor have I ingested any alcohol that would impair my memory of the facts stated in this affidavit. 2. In 2005, I was employed as an independent, self-employed repossession agent, not for any specific company. 3. On late Friday night, November 4th, or early Saturday morning, November 5th, sometime before 2 a.m., I was driving a tow truck looking to repossess a vehicle in Larrabee, Wisconsin, in the area of Highway 147 and County Road Q in Manitowoc County. I noticed a vehicle in the park and ride on Highway 147 and 43 that had just struck a deer and had a broken taillight. I gave the driver a roll of duct tape to repair the car. After that, I was driving down Highway 147 and made a wrong turn to go south on County Road Q. After I realized my mistake, I turned around and was heading back north. 6. As I was heading back north, I noticed a RAV4 driving south on County Road Q. The RAV4 turned left off of County Road Q after it passed me. 7. I noticed the RAV4 because it was unusual to see any other cars out on the road at that time of night. 8. My tow truck had bright headlights that would illuminate the oncoming RAV4 so that I could see the occupants, which I observed as the RAV4 passed me. 9. I had with me a helper named Mike, I do not know his last name, in my tow truck that night, who also noticed the RAV4. Mike is now deceased, unfortunately. 10. In the fall of 2006 and 2007, when I was watching the news about the Avery trial, I noticed Bobby Dassey and recognized him as the driver I saw that night in 2005. 11. In November 2006, I was in jail on a domestic charge in Brown County, Wisconsin, and again in February 2007 for bail jumping. During the time I was incarcerated, I told a Brown County detective that I had information about the Halbach murder, but was ignored and told that I was, quote unquote, already in enough trouble and to, quote unquote, shut up. 12. I could not recognize or identify the passenger in the RAV4, but I am 100% sure it was not Stephen Avery. 13. In 2017 or 2018, I told my brother Ron about my observation of the RAV4 back in 2005. 14. I do not know any of the Avery or Dassey family members personally, but I may have dropped towed vehicles at the Avery salvage yard on a few occasions. 15. I believe I have encountered Stephen Avery on one occasion at a local McDonald's, but did not converse with him. 16. I do not know Mike Osmondson. 17. Nothing has been promised or given to me in exchange for this affidavit. Further affiant saith not, Tom Buresh.
Well, isn't this just interesting as all get out? Got a second person that says that they've seen Bobby Dassey in connection with the RAV4. Now, just I'm not going to say the guy's wrong. I just want to point out, and this is a personal observation of mine. I'll let you guys talk, whoever wants to go first after I say this. But just thinking about, driving, especially at night, but pretty much any time, and you're passing someone, unless you're going like really slow, it's really difficult to recognize, unless you know that person and their car that draws your attention right to it. For me, it's really difficult to recognize that someone or see that person. Maybe his tow truck glass did illuminate the inside of the car enough where you could see someone, but for me, it's really difficult. So whoever wants to go first, please jump in. And
I'll just jump in really quick and say my opinion really fast. I'm reserving all judgment. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about it. I don't know. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for more information, more detail.
I'm like you. I need more, right?
Yeah.
Just like the Sawinski affidavit, and then we got the call. Had the call, and that made the link, and that does give it more. Whatever you want to say about it, does give it more credence. So.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I did ask for 3 reports from MTSO for deer incidents on 147 and 43. Unfortunately, none of them happened on the 4th or 5th.
Wow.
Well, they wouldn't, if he hit a deer, he wouldn't be advertising it because he was in a murdered woman's car or a missing woman's car at that point, right?
Only the problem is that's not what he says. He says that on his way to Larrabee, he happened to see somebody who hit a deer and broke his headlight, and he gave the driver a roll of duct tape. He continued on his way and made a wrong turn on Q and started heading down Q South, turned around, started coming north, and then passed the RAV. He never said that the car that he saw in the park and ride was RAV or Bobby, just somebody who hit a deer. The fact that he put that information in there, he should have left out. It has no bearing on this case. In fact, it could actually, if one of these other 147, 43 deer accidents that was reported that week is a park and ride with a broken headlight, and it wasn't on the 5th or 4th and happened on the 7th, 9th, or 13th, then there is no way he saw Bobby driving the RAV at all.
So all those deer accidents happened after Teresa Halbach was reported missing and in the news. Is that what MTSO is claiming?
I got a list of all the incidents long before this came out, and I went and checked the incidents from October 31st to November 15th. It has every incident ever created. There are many, many, many deer incidences. There's one on the 4th that Bobby picked up. That one is on there. However, none on 147 and 43, where he claims to have seen it at the park and ride, is shown on the 4th or the 5th. But there are 3 other incidences later that week.
So,
Yeah,
and
but
we have to keep
not on that, but
I'm sorry, Alice. We just have to keep in mind, and I believe what Jinx is saying. But we also have to keep in mind, not every deer strike is reported.
And I would
Sometimes
have to say that is a fucking miracle that it just so happens that this one incident wasn't the one that he's talking about isn't reported.
well,
You know, it's like these man miracles
but
that,
it
Jeff
was.
just had the other day. This would be a man miracle that this one deer out of there's like 3 or 4 a day reported that week, that this one just didn't happen to get reported.
But it was reported, right?
We don't
Because
know because I
we
don't
don't
know
know.
I don't know what those records are. It came out Friday. We have a 3-day weekend. I sent them in. I probably won't hear anything until at least
no,
next week.
what I mean by that is we do know that Bobby reported claiming a deer on the
Yes,
4th.
and we have that report
Right.
at 7:30. The other way, not near the parking ride, on the
Right.
other side of Avery's, on the west, like Avery, he's talking about west side of Avery's, way by the highway down there on 147 to the
Right.
west. And
Right.
where Bobby claimed the deer, where it was claimed from, was at Jambo Creek in 147, literally on the corner right by their house.
Do we have the
Well,
phone call where Bobby reported that deer? I can't remember.
We don't have the phone call, but I
no.
do believe there is a CAD report of him calling in the deer that night at like 8 or 9 o'clock or something
Yeah.
like that on the 4th.
On the
But
4th.
the thing is, I know people. Not everyone lives in this part of the. Jinx kind of lives up in more this direction, but I can just tell you, in my area, deer strikes are extremely common,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're worse during certain times of the year. But the thing is that when you report it on your insurance, almost automatically you're going to get an increase. It's just the way it is, and some people just won't. They'll just live with the damage if it's not, if it doesn't
Bad.
screw their
It's
car up so bad,
cheaper.
or if it's minor.
Yeah, if it's cheaper to fix it without reporting it to insurance,
Absolutely.
that's what I mean, because there's deer all over here too, because it's not predominantly city. So for every deer incident that's reported, I would think there's probably 3 that aren't, because
At least.
either the driver doesn't have a license, or he doesn't have insurance, or like,
Or they don't want to report it on their insurance because they know they're going to get an increase.
or they're drinking, because a lot of these incidents happen in the middle of the night, or they don't want an increase. I know that my daughter's father has hit 2 deer on his way home, one on his motorcycle, he was drinking, didn't report it, and the other one in his car, didn't report it, because he was drinking, and they just don't want to deal with the cops,
Right.
So, and if you're committing a crime, you're not going to voluntarily invite the police to be a part of it, right?
Well, even in some places, it's like you call it in and they don't even send someone unless they have to come. You just go by the office and pick up the paperwork and fill it out. It's like a side thing, They talk
Yeah.
actually they actually talk about it in a couple of calls that we've got. You just come by the police department and pick up the forms, whatever they are, list of damage, where it happened, and so forth and so on. So it's I don't know.
So let's say let's say like one of these other reports does mention the parking lot ride and it was reported, this will be a problem for the case. That's my point. If any of those other 3.
Right.
Maybe it didn't get reported. Maybe these 3 have nothing to do with anything at a parking ride with anybody reporting any damage to their car. No idea. I won't know until I get the reports.
Right.
Maybe it was unreported.
Is the park and ride the same place where people saw the RAV? Is that the turnabout? Is that
No, that's not the same.
No,
Okay.
different. Alice, you had a comment? I cut you off a minute
I mean,
ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's we've got to remember this is just her asking permission to add something, right? I mean, look at the last one that she done concerning Thomas Sawinski, right? Including ourselves, we were like, nah, we're not sure. Why is he only coming forward now? Yada, 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 yada. What proof has she got? Yada, yada. Then she got the permission to go ahead and hand in the motion. That was when we found out that she had the phone call and everything like that. So
I think the call came later.
The call
Alice.
came this year, that wasn't part
Yeah.
of the last one.
It went the same time.
No, but my point is she's asking permission. We don't know what evidence that she has got. The same thing happened with Tom Sawinski. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon and be like, oh, it's bullshit, and she's not got this, and she's not got that, and everything like that. And it turns out that she fucking does, because she's got the phone call and everything like that. Whether that came later or not. My point is we cannot go on everything that is in this. All we can go on with what we've got in front of us right now is that another witness has came forward. That's it. Period. Never mind about a deer being hot on fucking 47Q52 or whatever. You know what I mean? The fact of the matter is that another witness has came forward. I'm not even caring who it is he's saying he's seen or he's not seen. The fact is that somebody else, maybe it's a bit too late or what, but somebody else has grew a set of balls and came forward and said, this is what I've seen. I don't think people should be jumping the gun and, saying, oh, well, he can't be this or he can't be that because, yeah, we're all curious. Why is he only coming forward in that now? You know what I mean? Which is only natural. It's human beings do, you know what I mean? They say curiosity killed the cat. We're all like that, you know what I mean? But the only fact that, in my opinion, I don't know if anybody else on the panel agrees, but the only fact that we should be taking away from what we've got in front of us right now is that another witness has came forward about the Teresa Hallback case who wasn't there before.
Well,
I couldn't agree with you.
Along
Sorry.
those lines, no, I'm just going to say briefly, along those lines of what Alice is saying, I've thought about this too, I'm sure everyone has, is that we don't know this person. We don't know his life. I mean, he's clearly been in some trouble. He's had some scrapes with the law. I mean, you can read that right in his affidavit. And I don't really have that it is what it is. But could it have been fear that held him back? And we could talk about that. We don't have to talk about it now. I'm just saying, could he have been just like, you know what? I'm staying the hell away from it because of X, Y, and Z. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know.
What I wanted to say is I agree with Alice, exactly what she said. We don't know what's happening. I would suggest that we keep in mind that Kathleen Zellner, Stephen's lawyer, must have vetted this guy inside out, and she wouldn't be foolish or naive or unprofessional or shady to put out somebody who said, yes, I saw Bobby driving the car. That's a pretty big allegation and statement. And she must have something in her back pocket or, records of some sort in order to prove that this is the truth. And in addition, whoever does an affidavit, we have learned this, is that that's the truth. The court has to take it as the truth. We can discuss it all we want, but we simply do not have more information than this at this point. So there's going to be people for
I
it
disagree.
and against it.
I think we do have more information. We have information of him being involved in this case where he is actually tweeting Kathleen Zellner for the past 4 years. We have him stating he's going to the rally in 2019 and went to the rally in 2019 where there is video showing him there.
Well, no,
that
you
that
misunderstood me,
he
Jean.
wrote.
What I
Listen,
wanted
wait,
to.
I'm not done. He wrote
Don't be
Okay.
rude.
2
Don't be
weeks
don't be rude.
2 weeks before he put out his affidavit to Kathleen Zellner on the Stephen Avery is innocent group that he is so proud of everybody doing all they can to free him and that he can't wait to go fishing with Stephen Avery again. Meaning he knows Stephen Avery. Does he know Stephen Avery? Or is that a lie? Which one is the lie? The thing he said in April before he filed the affidavit in May of May 10th? Because that's 2 weeks later, and now he's stating he doesn't know Stephen Avery, only maybe seen him at a McDonald's. So is
I'm
it
going to say this. I'm going to say
fishing
this one
again
time. I'm going to say this.
or
I'm going
what?
to say this one time. Be civil, or don't talk. Treat each other
Well,
Yeah.
civilly.
wanted to finish about the McDonald's thing and knowing him. So this is more information that is known now
So
that we
yeah,
didn't have.
Yeah, what I meant to say and was cut off, that what Zellner has, we do not know. What this person is saying, I wasn't referring to that. I was just saying what Zellner has, we do not know that yet. That's all I wanted to say, but you guys take it up.
and
Well,
going fishing with Stephen
And thank
Avery
you, Jack.
could mean a lot of things.
well.
It
Here's
could
the
mean
here's
a
the
lot.
other here's the part of this affidavit, and I think we talked about it here right when we got started. As I understand the law, Zellner had to turn this in. She didn't have a choice. This guy's willing, came forward and said, I'm willing to swear an affidavit. She doesn't have a choice about not turning it over.
That's
And,
right. Right.
and you know, if a lawyer that's out there, or, you know, Shereen can tell us, hey, if I'm wrong, please say so. But I think she's required to turn this affidavit
Mhm.
over, whatever it is.
And it's interesting that he has been trying to contact her for 4 years. That seems to me that's someone who has something to say, right?
Well,
If
I mean,
he's
we
trying to,
know. Yeah, I mean, I've turned in information to KZ. I've never gotten anything back. I'm sure you have. I'm sure other people have.
yeah, I've gotten one response, and that was a thank you, and we'll look into it. So he obviously, and trust me, if let's say hypothetically what he is saying is true. If I was him, I would have bugged her until she took my affidavit too, right?
Yeah.
Because what we've been giving her isn't this. I mean, it's good stuff, but this is huge if true. This, if they're in the hands of an ethical judge seeking justice and truth, this is enough to get an evidentiary hearing. At least, or a minimum,
Hearing, a hearing. Well, I don't think that'd be an evidentiary hearing per se. It would be a more limited type hearing that could lead to a full evidentiary hearing.
Okay, yeah. So get him a court date. Get him into court.
Yeah.
And that's all she needs, right?
Yeah.
Reality. And that's why they're trying their dadgumdest to not give it to her, because they know this case is hanging by the thinnest of threads.
Yeah. No
They're
doubt.
I think they probably pray every night, please let him die. Please let them go away. Please let him die. Please let them go away. I mean, if it was and hell bent on keeping two innocent men in prison, I think that's probably what my prayer would be.
Yeah. Alice?
Chat, and he says you can hit a deer, make a claim the next day, the police are not involved, and there isn't a report of it anywhere. So just because there isn't a documented report on it doesn't mean to say that it never happened.
Yeah, it depends on the region. I don't. I just know that what I read there, or there's actually a couple of phone calls about people having deer strikes that we've got. That, somebody's called in and they want to report a deer strike, and if the deer, obviously if the deer is deceased, that if somebody gets the deer, they have to get it tagged within a certain amount of time, which is fine. That's typically what they do. But as for claiming it on your insurance, you have to fill out paperwork. But again, it did sound like there was unless the police have to get involved, there's like the damage causes bodily harm and other things. I think that goes into a different category. But if it's just car damage, you just pick up the paperwork and fill it out and send it into your insurance if you want to claim it.
Yeah. Or sometimes depending on how fast you've been going or how quick the deer's ran out or what, depends on the damage that actually happens to your car. I mean, I know you can hit a deer and it can literally wreck your car, but you can also hit a deer and it'll knock your bumper off, it'll smash your headlight or whatever.
Or very minor damage, or very minor damage. Just depends.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier, and if you know what you're doing, it's easier to change the light yourself than claim your insurance and wait for and do all the paperwork and wait for it all to come through. My dad used to work on cars when I was growing up, so I know that if you know what you're doing, you can take the whole light out and change it and fix it and everything, and not even have to claim on your insurance.
I find the fact that this deer is still coming up, and the way they treated the deer in the Dassey garage, I just find all of that just so bizarre. You know what I mean? Like that, one has to think that a deer played some sort of role in all of this.
Well, I don't know. But anyway, before I move on to this next part, and we can look at I want to look at a little bit of this affidavit. Is there any questions or comments that we need to get to in the live chat, Alice, or anyone that's been looking? I've glanced at it, but I didn't really see anything.
We've got an amazing group of people in chat. We've got 77 people in chat, Jack. So
nice.
It's a bit hard trying to keep track of everybody's questions, and I do apologise. So I'll pick up on a few that I have came across. People have joined us again in chat, which is fantastic. We've got Mr. President's joined us now. We've got Yoga who's joined us. We've got Travis who's joined us. We've got, who else have we got? TTM Fangirl, Behind the Magic, Bethany, Paul Ward, Anthony House, Double D, let's see, Graham Moss. Hi everyone. Some are saying what we've been saying, we can't go on what we're just seeing, and I think it was TTM that says when she came in, no, it was Bethany. She says, Kathleen Zellner's not a stupid woman. She's going to have scrutinized this guy's test, what
affidavit,
he said.
His affidavit.
Yeah.
As much as she can, sure. But again, I think legally she's required to turn it over. I don't think she has a choice.
Yeah, she is. She is. I honestly believe that, Jack. But what I'm saying is that if he's went to her, I can guarantee you that she has said something along the same lines as what she said to Stephen about his guilt. But she has says to him, look, I'll find out if you are lying to me. You know what I mean? I will find out, period. And that will be good for you. Just like she says to Stephen, if I find out you're guilty, then You know, I
You're
don't take
screwed.
on people who are guilty, but
Right.
if it finds out that you're guilty, then I'm not going to be a very happy person. You know what I mean? And I guarantee you, she said this to this guy as well, that he's got to be absolutely sure on what he's saying for her to be able to take this legal affidavit under oath. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
For
it's a
it to
sworn.
be true.
It's an out of court sworn statement. Absolutely.
Yeah. So he's got to be telling the truth, because if not, then she can put him through a fucking wee bit of misery. You know what I mean? So I don't think, like we said with the Sawinski one, I don't think she's going to be daft enough to put something like this out here and not have something to back it up.
Well, I hope I agree. I hope she does. I hope there's more forthcoming. So, but we'll see. I did want to read this comment from Travis. He says, "You can hit a deer, make a claim the next day. The police are not involved, and there isn't a report of it anywhere. You take your car to your preferred body place, and they take care of it." Yeah. Well, yeah. Basically, I mean, I've heard of this many times here. As I said, I mean, I grew up in a different region of the states, and deer were there, but my God, here they just run like a pack of wild dogs. They're everywhere here, and deer strikes are really common.
Yeah, especially in certain times of the year. And
That's
this
right.
time of the year, the time that this case occurred was the time of the year where they run. I think it's mating season, and plus it's hunting season. Was it muzzle loading or bow season? It was something, right?
Yeah,
So
they last. Certain types of hunting are allowed for X amount of time, then it goes to the next bow hunting, and then it goes to whatever. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's the same here, Jack. I mean, we've got deer here. I mean, where I live in Pennycook, it's 10 miles away from Edinburgh city centre, so it's
So
like
they're
it's
they're everywhere. Yeah.
and there's fields. I mean, I've got hills. I've got the Pentland Hills. I can look up in my garden. I can look up and see the Pentland Hills. So when I'm out in the woods and that, taking a walk with Loki, I see deer all the time.
Sure.
Young ones, old ones. Female ones. I'm not exactly sure what the process is here if you hit a deer or anything like that. I think most of us, with the way us Scots and that are, if we hit a deer, it's shove it on the roof, shove it on the roof rack and take it home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'll maybe need to look into that for the next time. But yeah, I mean, we've got deer and all that here as well. But the thing is that I don't think Kathleen is going to be putting something like this out here if she's not got this shit to back it up, basically.
Well, I mean, again, I still think she's required to submit this. If this guy says, "Hey, I saw this, I'm willing to, swear it on a stack of Bibles, whatever," she's legally required to turn it in. And there's
within so many days, actually.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think
Of finding out. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. And there's
I
only
think
so
Dr.
far. I
Silkman
think.
has something to say.
Who's that? Oh,
Dr.
Doc.
Silkman.
Doc, please go ahead.
Thanks, Jack. I think it's important to make sure that we don't overcook this affidavit over here, and just look at it logically, what it implies. I think it's important not to be too far-reaching. Now, someone like Buresh is easily going to be ripped apart by the guilters. There's no question about that.
Sure.
Or the state. I think you have to really distill it down to what it potentially represents. If it is the truth, I think what it indicates is that it provides a form of corroboration for Sawinski.
Yeah.
And this is important. I mean, I wouldn't put too much value the fact that he identified Bobby Dassey. I agree with you guys. It's going to be very difficult to identify passengers within a car at that time. What is important to me, the take-home message, is the mere factor that you have a RAV4 in the early hours of the morning, November 4th, early hours of the morning, November 5th, late night, early morning. That corroborates Sawinski. And I think this represents a very powerful argument that Kathleen Zellner can present to say, hey, look, there is good evidence that the Toyota RAV4, the victim's vehicle, was seen off the property. And, this strengthens the observations done by Hagel and also who was with him? The girl that was, the lady that was with him. I always get
Wendy Baldwin.
Baldwin, right? It actually strengthens their observation of not seeing a RAV4 around that area. And the argument can be, well, you didn't see a RAV4 because it was off the property and it was brought back on the property in the early hours of November the 5th. Now that gels well with Sawinski's observation. What is damning, in my opinion, is the proximity of the RAV4 near the quarry, right? The back of where Stephen Avery's property is, right?
That's
the Avery
right.
salvage yard.
That's right.
It's the proximity which is damning. I mean, look, I know he could have embellished a few things here in his affidavit, but I think for me, the most important takeaway message is A, you now have another witness who has seen a vehicle similar to Teresa's RAV4 in the vicinity of the Avery salvage yard in the early hours of the morning. Something like that should be ringing alarm bells for the state, right? Because now you have another independent observation. Now, the argument will be, well, okay, but the RAV4 was seen in two different locations. Who cares? The person driving the RAV could have simply been circling around trying to find an opportune moment to plant the vehicle, right? So now you've got two independent witnesses who have seen the victim's vehicle near or on the Avery salvage yard. That's pretty powerful in my opinion.
Yeah, good comments, Doc, and good food for thought. And I do, again, I said this earlier, passing someone at night, unless you're going really slow and there's some ambient lighting, maybe from street lights or whatever, or your lights are really at a level that they shine into a car or vehicle that's lower to the ground. I have seen that before and been, just thinking back, being able to see at least some portion of someone inside a car, but to see their face, it's really difficult. With that said, I can't discount what someone else saw. I can't.
So here's some, I'm not sure how accurate it is, but here is some information on hitting deer. So in 7 states, those states are California, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and Wisconsin, you do not have to file a report or get a permit if you hit a deer. All other states require you to report it and or get a permit, tag, or license from the concerned authorities. So if that is true, that's interesting that Bobby did get a tag for that deer if he didn't have to. And it becomes illegal if you hit a deer and don't report it if the accident damages another car or someone else's property. For example, you must legally report any accident that causes injury or damage of $500 or more in Florida. Let's see, anything else interesting? Hitting a deer is not considered an act of God. So they do not waive your deductible and the government will not pay for it. And I guess that's about it. So that's interesting because I thought that they had to tag in Wisconsin. I guess that's if you want to bring it home. Maybe
right.
That's...
Well, I mean, those times that a deer, I mean, there's many strikes that a deer will literally be running across the road and hit your car in the side. They're not really hurt, they may be dazed a little bit, and they just run off. And you have no idea if that deer is passed or deceased or whatever because it
Yeah.
ran off, you know. So you
Run.
so you're left with car damage with no deer, right? So
Yep.
it
Hit
it
run.
happens. Yep, it does happen. So yeah, it's interesting how these various states handle that, and I'm sure again at certain times of the year it can become a bit overwhelming depending on where you live, right? So I did want to look
Jack,
at.
Jack,
Yep.
sorry. Now, this gentleman, Buresh, is not stating that the vehicle he saw, the RAV4, had struck a deer. This was another independent vehicle, right? In the
Is what
park
I,
and ride.
yeah,
It's
yes,
not the
that's right.
same vehicle, right?
N-
So you know what? I bet you the Wisconsin Legal Eagles are almost ready to admit that the RAV4 was brought onto the property. You know why? Because now there are too many independent witnesses that have seen the victim's vehicle off the Avery salvage yard. Now, you know what they're going to try and do? They're going to try and weave Brendan or Stephen into this narrative.
Yeah.
That the vehicle was brought onto the property in the cover of night in order for Stephen to crush it. That'll probably be the narrative and story that they're going to try and go with. You see, now it's too embarrassing, right? You've got all these individuals that are coming forward stating that, hey, I saw the victim's vehicle at the turnaround. I saw the victim's vehicle right next to the property. I saw the victim's vehicle being pushed onto the Avery salvage yard. I bet you they're going to concede that the vehicle was indeed off the Avery salvage yard. And don't forget, remember what Tom Fassbender said to Stephen Avery when he was arrested on November the 9th? Fassbender even said to Stephen exactly how the RAV4 got placed at the pit, that it came from the quarry. And you know why he said that? Because he followed the tracks of the scent dog, right? Yep. These bastards, they know that the RAV4 was off the Avery salvage yard. I bet you now they'll concede that indeed it was.
Maybe they should ask the 5 little kittens.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, you know that. I mean, to me, that really becomes a problem for Mr. Ken Kress because he said it never left the property. Teresa never left the Avery salvage yard, which I think we all have believed for many years now that she did, and everything was brought back, you know, in order to pin the tail on Stephen's forehead.
But I think that was probably irrelevant with the information that they kept to themselves and didn't bring in. But it's quite obvious now through a lot of hard work done by Zellner and her experts and also witnesses coming forward that is indeed not the narrative, right? The fact that Teresa and her RAV4 never left the property. And I still believe that Susan, a month or so ago, asked a very, very pertinent question, which now comes into play. And that involves Cuss Road. Why didn't that narrative work? Why didn't they use the narrative? Okay, Stephen took Teresa and her RAV4 off the property, killed her at Cuss Road, and then did so-and-so with the body and the vehicle. They never went with that narrative.
Right.
And that's intriguing. I can't answer that question.
It is a good question that Susan posed about Cuss Road because that would have wrapped so many loose ends up for them. And what are you left with? Seriously, that they could have done that, and I just don't understand why they didn't do it either. I really don't.
Correct.
T1 did ask a question. I see here in the chat. Does a deer strike report indicate what sex the deer was? I don't think. Well, I don't know. I don't know. And are there any indications of other deer hanging in the Dassey garage sex? Garage of sex. That I don't know. I can try to pull up that deer tag that a photo was taken of. I can find it. Hey, Gloria's a foul play lover. Hey, thanks, Gloria.
Yeah, foul play lover. I would just like to say again, thank you to everyone in chat. We've been sitting at 81 in chat for quite a while now, and I do apologise if I haven't got to your questions, but we haven't had this amount in chat for as long as I can remember, so it's hard keeping up with all your questions and all your opinions.
We have, but it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long while, Jack. So, let me see here. Danny Melas is back with us in chat. Hi, Danny. Nice to see you. It says, I think some people are getting hung up on this deer and the statement being hit by the RAV. That is not this story unless Bobby also saw this same driver and this was the deer he would take later. Yeah, I completely agree with you. He does not say it is the RAV that has hurt the deer. What he says is that he was on his way to a tow and he came across somebody else who had hit a deer. So he gave them some duct tape to tape up their light to get them home. Then he gets back in his motor and he starts driving to the toll that he was supposed to be going to, makes a wrong turn, and he does the U-turn and goes back to trying to go where he's going. And when he's done that, that is when he sees the RAV as it's coming towards him because he sees it in his lights. He's not saying it's the RAV, Teresa's RAV, that got hit with the deer. That's not what he's saying.
No, it's a different car. It's a separate issue. You know, all this, it's an ability to verify what he's saying if possible. But again, I don't know that we can do that. I don't know that we can't necessarily rely on this deer strike and then him giving this person a roll of tape to tape up their light. I don't know that we can go with that. It's unfortunate that, Doc.
I was going to say the state's going to see that as an incidental statement by Buresh.
Yeah.
I think Buresh said that as to give a reason why he was out at that area and at night. Right? He's a tow truck driver.
I 100% agree with you. I don't think that's the focus of his statement.
Yep.
It was just like a logical explanation of his night.
Yeah, correct. As you know, the question could be asked, well, what are you doing around the Avery salvage yard? Are you involved in planting the RAV? Blah, blah, blah. So, you know, he's there. Hey, I'm a tow truck driver. I had my buddy with me. And by the way, I saw a car that had struck a deer at Park and Ride. They had a broken blinker light. I gave him a roll of duct tape and I was on my way home. Oh, by the way, I saw a vehicle that looked like Teresa Horbach's RAV4. Done. Right. And like I said before, I think, guys, it's important that we don't overcook this. We just take it at face value. Now, because he's got a criminal record, it doesn't mean that he can't observe things, right? I know that he will be attacked because he's has a criminal record.
That's
but
right.
hey, at the moment when he saw the RAV4, he wasn't in prison, right? He was on the road. He had a legitimate reason to be on the road. And it's rather damning that he sees the victim's vehicle allegedly around about the same time that Sawinski also sees the victim's vehicle. To me, that's the damning point.
Well,
to use,
go ahead, Neverly.
Sorry, and to use state's own words, this is what I said about Bobby. When we said, why would, Bobby was hooked on porn, he was looking inappropriate stuff and blah, blah. And they said just because he's obsessed with porn does not mean that he didn't see what he saw, right?
Or
they didn't say a truthful statement.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
So
100%.
This is the same thing.
Yeah, so if you apply if you apply it to one person, you've got to apply it to somebody else. Do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, why would Buresh make something like that up? It's putting the spotlight on him. You normally wouldn't do something like that, no.
Yeah, I mean that exactly, Doc. That's why I said at the beginning, we can speculate as much as we like. We can imagine scenarios and everything like that as much as we like. It's not going to make a difference. The only thing we should take away from what we've seen with our own eyes is the fact that another witness, has came forward and said that the RAV was off the property and it was seen. That's it. Because that's all, that's all I can conclude from what we've seen. All right, because as I say, we're only speculating about, was it a deer? Who was it? You know what I mean? And our William has got, let me see if I can find it there. Well, our William in chat has came up with a very good thing. Question, please. Does this sighting coincide with the other witness that saw Brendan, Bobby Dassey pushing the RAV? That
it does.
We can speculate on that as well.
Yeah, it does.
Um,
It does. That's the problem. It does. And
yeah.
like I said before, I think the state is actually now going to concede that the RAV4 was off the property, right? There's too many independent people that have seen the RAV4. I think they will concede, but like I said, I reckon they're going to spin it that it was done on purpose so that the family's going out to Crivets. But then how are they going to explain the fact that Stephen went to Crivets, right? It doesn't make any sense, right? Are they going to now drag Earl into it? So bring the RAV4 on the property, bring it next to the crusher, get rid of it. They'll try and spin it that way. But I think it'll be very, very powerful for Stephen, and also Kathleen Zellner, if the state actually concedes that the RAV4 was indeed off the Avery salvage yard. That's going to really weaken their case.
One thing that I think we could probably add into this Thomas Buresh's favor, he's a tow truck driver, so that tells me he probably knows vehicles. He almost has to really kind of have a mind for them. A lot of people don't care. If a car gets them from point A to point B, they don't care what kind of car it is. I'm a car guy. I know a lot of people, men and women are, and I pay attention. And he may be one of these people, so that could be in his favor. Being in his Go ahead.
No, I thought about that too. Being a guy who repossesses cars,
Yeah,
he has
man.
Looking for. Yeah. So if he says he saw a RAV4, there's weight to that.
That's
because
true.
It's business of IDing cars to repossess them. And
That's
if you
right.
can't spot one to then get up and check the VIN, you're in the wrong profession. So, yeah, I thought that's a good point, Jax.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our William, he says, okay, so next question. Where was Stephen at the time Thomas saw the RAV?
He was in Crivets.
Well,
no.
Well, no. He'd have been at home. He wasn't.
He went that morning.
Yeah.
Oh, they left on the 5th. Okay. Yep.
Yes,
That's right.
correct. He left on the 5th. So technically, he should have been in bed, right? He should have been in bed.
That's right.
So his brother Chuck and Brendan Dassey went the night before on the Friday night, which is very interesting because that's when Chuck saw the lights near his place, and there shouldn't have been any lights. There should have been no one there, right? So again, it's really interesting that it's all coming together now that it's inescapable. You can't have all these independent witnesses seeing the victim's vehicle off the Avery salvage site, and it does change the state's narrative. Yes, it does.
Has to. I will say this. I I have to agree with that. And for all the reports that we do have of people that we know of that have seen the RAV off the property, how many reports got submitted that we didn't hear? Because I know I'm positive there are calls we don't have. And so I'm going to say that there's probably more that we'll never know about. I will say, by the way, there's been a request to read this affidavit again. So, Rhonda, if you don't mind, it's not that long. Do you mind reading it again?
Sure.
Oh,
Just
just one second before Rhonda
Yep.
gets ready. Nan's Life 7 in chat said that neither Tom Sawinski nor this guy, Brett, asked for any money. They were not promised any money, but Evans did ask for money. That's what she said in the chat.
Oh yeah, that Evans guy. God, what
Yeah.
a nutbag! What a nutbag! God Almighty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point, Dan.
Very good point.
Yeah. All right, Rhonda, whenever you're ready, let's get this
All
done
right,
one
you want
more
me
time.
the affidavit itself, right?
Yes, I've got it up there.
Okay. Affidavit of Tom Buresh. Now comes your affiant, Tom Buresh, and under oath hereby states as follows. Number 1, I am of legal majority and can truthfully and competently testify to the matters contained herein based upon my personal knowledge. The factual statements herein are true and correct to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief. I am of sound mind and I am not taking any medication, nor have I ingested any alcohol that would impair my memory of the facts stated in this affidavit. Number 2, in 2005, I was employed as an independent, self-employed repossession agent, not for any specific company. Number 3, on late Friday night, November 4th, or early Saturday morning, November 5th, sometime before 2 a.m., I was driving a tow truck looking to repossess a vehicle in Larrabee, Wisconsin, in the area of Highway 147 and County Road Q in Manitowoc County. Number 4, I noticed a vehicle in the park and ride on highways 147 and 43 that had just struck a deer and had a broken headlight. I gave the driver a roll of duct tape to repair the car. Number 5, after that, I was driving down Highway 147 and made a wrong turn to go south on County Road Q. After I realized my mistake, I turned around and was heading back north. Number 6, as I was heading back north, I noticed a RAV4 driving south on County Road Q. The RAV4 turned left off on County Road Q after it passed me. Number 7, I noticed the RAV4 because it was unusual to see any other cars out on the road at that time of night. Number 8, my tow truck had bright headlights that would illuminate the oncoming RAV4 so that I could see the occupants, which I observed as the RAV4 passed me. Number 9, I had with me a helper named Mike, I do not know his last name, in my tow truck that night who also noticed the RAV4. Mike is now deceased. Number 10, in the fall of 2006 and 2007, when I was watching the news about the Avery trial, I noticed Bobby Dassey and recognized him as the driver I saw that night in 2005. Number 11, in November 2006, I was in jail on a domestic charge in Brown County, Wisconsin, and again in February 2007 for bail jumping. During the time I was incarcerated, I told a Brown County detective that I had information about the Hallbach murder, but was ignored and told that I was quote unquote already in enough trouble and to quote unquote shut up. Number 12, I could not recognize or identify the passenger in the RAV4, but I am 100% sure it was not Stephen Avery. Number 13, in 2017 or 2018, I told my brother Ron about my observation of the RAV4 back in 2005. Number 14, I do not know any of the Avery or Dassey family members personally but I may have dropped towed vehicles at the Avery salvage yard on a few occasions. Number 15. I believe I have encountered Stephen Avery on one occasion at a local McDonald's, but did not converse with him. Number 16. I do not know Mike Osmondson. Number 17. Nothing has been promised or given to me in exchange for this affidavit.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. Good reading. Always do such a great job. We had such great readers. Neverly, Susan, so many people. Anyway.
So, I had to step away for a minute. Have we pulled up the Sawinski affidavit to compare them yet?
No, I wasn't going to do that.
Okay.
No.
All right. So I wonder if the mention of the car that hit a deer at the park and ride is a clue that the cops know that would. I wonder if there's a embedded clue in there that is signifying something that we're not aware of, but the cops are.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Because I found this
interesting.
I also found this number 16 interesting, and I don't really understand where it comes from. I do not know. I can understand the Averys and Dasseys. You know, he's dropped cars. He's a tow truck driver. He's probably dropped cars at the Avery salvage yard, Cleveland Auto Salvage or whatever, and other salvage yards that take in towed vehicles that maybe have a contract or do repair. But this number 16, I found this. I do not know Mike Osmondson. I don't understand. Can somebody help me where this is coming from?
That's strategic.
I think so.
That's an incredibly strategic point. Same with the him seeing the car being hit by a deer, right? This is sort of like a very subtle dig at the state via Kathleen Zellner. Why on earth would he put a statement, I do not know Mike Osmondson? Now, Mike Osmondson just happens to be whose best friend?
Bobby's.
There you go. So it is a very subtle dig and very, very cleverly done, because what it does is it strengthens the hypothesis that somehow Bobby Dassey, the deer, Mike Osmondson were somehow all involved with the RAV4. Whether that is true or not, I do not know.
Right.
But this is a very, very clever trick done by Kathleen Zellner, just to put in that little dig of, I do not know Mike Osmondson. Where did that come from? Out of the blue? No. An attorney is not going to waste any inch of an affidavit. That's strategic.
Well, I thought so too, but I just thought maybe somebody had a differing opinion, because I couldn't understand where else it would have come from, knowing that he is, or at least he was, Bobby's really good friend from back then. So that's interesting.
So what is Bobby's alibi for November 4th? Do we know that? What does he claim he was up to?
Didn't he work that night?
Overnight, November 5th.
Didn't he say he worked on the 4th? He was off Friday and Saturday. And he was on night shift, so his work week actually starts on Sunday night. Wasn't he at work? Isn't that right? I can't remember.
Well, the 4th was Friday, right? The 5th was Saturday.
That's true.
He's off on Friday and Saturday, so he was off work.
That's true. I forgot about that. You are correct. Exactly right, Neverly. I don't remember. I'm not. Did he give an alibi for the night of the 4th?
I don't know, and I wonder what the computer says for these hours. The Dassey computer. Do we have their records for this day? Oh, so side note, off topic, but not really off topic. I've given up trying to find somebody to build a database, and I have just paid to take a class to learn to build a database. And I am going to do so. And then I am going to make a database. So the point of that is to learn how to create a database to upload all the information into, so then we can then query.
Yeah,
And
and that,
hey,
like
cool.
an access database.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, if I'm any good, if I achieve my goal, I will be able to build a database that will then be hosted on, if y'all allow, will be hosted on the Foul Play website. And then anyone trying to research the case will be able, if they know how, to go in, search all of our documents, because we have so much data now, right? I mean, we really,
A crazy amount.
yes. And so that data will then be able to be queried for anyone who's trying to help find the truth. And if the answer does lie in something that we have gotten, we just haven't found it yet. Because sometimes it's just being able to extract. Dr. Silkman can probably, or yours can probably explain it better, or even you, Jax, can explain it better than me, because I'm just no good at talking this kind of stuff. But being able to ask a question of all the information we have and getting an answer can really help, you know?
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean, we do have a ton of documentation, you know, and getting that entered into a database where it's easily findable, you know, that becomes its own problem. And I know that yours and Zoe have been, I know that they were working on trying to label our photos in such a way that, like, if you went in of all the photos we've got of, let's just say, the RAV, and you go into the search thing, whatever, and you type in RAV4, it should automatically pull all the photos because they have a keyword attached to them. That in itself also is extremely, you know, for me looking at it, it would be extremely difficult 'cause I have no idea how to do it. I will say that many years ago, I had a minor class in the Access database, but it's changed since then. But that would be great, Christine, if you can do that.
yep. So,
So,
and it would be awesome to be able to type in RAV photos and get every photo we have. That would be
right,
fun. Like,
very,
you know,
very, very helpful.
so maybe that's something else that we can all, so then there will be, if yours and oh wow, and Zoe would like help if I'm any good after this class, maybe then I can help assist them in that. So that's the goal anyway. It was on a thing called Udemy,
Yeah,
and it only costs $9, and it's like, I want to say 58 hours of teaching for $9.
nice.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
uh, all right,
Hey
before
guys,
we, yeah,
Brian Zoller in chat says that we're going back to Bobby's alibi. That Bobby was off on the 4th, that he got the deer on the 4th. Remember how there was this huge dilemma where it was on the 3rd or on the 4th? Well, it was settled on the 4th, right? The tag said the 4th.
yeah, and I actually think there's statements and so forth given that, you know, this happened on the 4th as well. That's right.
Yeah.
I can't quote them verbatim right now, but you're correct.
Yeah. And
oh,
then Bethany says they never said where or what Bobby did from the 31st to the 5th.
Um, yeah, I don't think we have too much information other than, you know, he worked and went hunting in the afternoon with his friend Mike, except for on the 31st, which apparently on that day, the statement was that he went hunting behind Scott's trailer,
yeah.
and Scott went somewhere else.
Well, that's what I said, but we concluded also that that doesn't mean that I did actually do that.
Correct. That's right.
I think his phone records and witnesses dispute his account for the 31st. And I
Correct.
also want to mention, just because, you know, for anyone who's new, that he is the only family member that lived on the Avery salvage yard who did not go to Crivets, right? Because Blaine left.
No, I think Earl. I don't think Earl went. At
Yeah,
least
but
not
he,
in not,
but
not
he,
at least not least until I think he may have went the next day. But I think he was there on the 5th, right? I'm sorry.
yeah,
I
he worked there, but he didn't live there.
No, he
Correct.
didn't live there.
Correct. Yeah.
O-Dog has joined us in chat. Sorry, Doc. O-Dog has joined us in chat, and he says, I think he says he doesn't know Mike Osmondson, so people don't think his earlier statement mentioning a Mike wouldn't be confused.
Well, I saw that and I was looking at it as Christina was talking a minute ago, and I did see that. He says he does not know his last name, so I guess maybe that was a clarification, and it could also have been a little dig, as Doc said, because knowing that Mike Osmondson is Bobby's friend, or at least he was then. Hey,
Yeah, and Mike Osmondson was implicated in that whole helping with the body statement, right?
The
joke.
thing.
Yeah. So he was one of the underlooked people in the whole thing. So maybe Zellner is coming out. Who knows? Who knows? We will see.
In number 9, though, he says Mike is now deceased.
Yes.
So that does change that thought a little bit of him saying he didn't know Mike. It leans more to him saying that Mike is now deceased, leans much more to what Doc said, that it's strategic.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
And I'm sure others have done this. I ran him through the Wisconsin Clerk of Courts thing, and all of his charges are around a bad divorce. It was obviously a bad breakup, so he's got like a felony that was dropped but read in.
Domestic shit, like he mentioned in his affidavit.
Yep. It's all about a, because there's also a restraining order so he couldn't go to his kids' school and see his kids. So it was ugly.
Oh boy. Okay. Is there anything else from the affidavit that people want to discuss? Because I want to move on and pull up this article that was written by John Farrak in the Patch. It's a newspaper organization that it might be interesting to get his read. I don't know that we're going to really learn too much of anything else from it, but while we're doing this, we might as well go ahead and include it. So is there any other questions that people want to discuss about the affidavit itself?
Not necessarily the affidavit itself, but they were talking about, what was Bobby doing between the 31st and the 5th. Jinx says the 5th was the day they found the RAV at 10:28 a.m. So wasn't the day Avery supposedly said the joke, as he had left at 5:30 a.m. or 6 a.m. So Bethany says something is odd though. He says he was working for himself, driving a tow truck, and yet if it was his business, he would have known who the guy was unless he lost his paperwork.
Well, I mean, a lot of times these, people, they have, friends or a buddy that, just comes to help. They're not really an employee, or somebody that's, maybe, I won't say a drifter, or a transient, but somebody they just don't really know, and he just, maybe knew at the time and forgotten his last name. It happens.
Yeah, or he was getting paid off the books, Jack. Like
exactly.
We call it cash in hand. You get a sneaky job at the weekend, saying washing the pub or something like that. You know what I mean? And you get a cheeky wee backhander for doing it. It could have been something like that. So you're maybe not going to ask them their full name or something like that. You know what I mean? So I mean, there's easy explanations in a sense, and I can't remember who it was in chat earlier kind of asked, why is it some of them are just coming forward now? Well, I mean, that could be multiple reasons,
Yeah, we
They
just
were
don't know.
scared. Yeah, they were scared because if they lived in the area, if they came forward, can you imagine them having to look over their shoulder every time they seen a police motor or something of that sort, somebody for the community who was all police driven and everything like that. So there is lots of reasons why some are no coming forward. Maybe this person has now moved away from the area. So, they're not going to get
Yeah,
that
why
hassle.
would you want, yeah. Why would you want to get yourself in a hot mess? This is a hot mess of a place. And Manitowoc is so tiny and Calumet County is so tiny in comparison to the whole world, basically.
Yeah, everybody
You
knows
know?
your business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your neighbour knows what colour a knicker to put on in the morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that type of thing. So, to me, that would be one of the biggest factors for people in the community not to be coming forward as much as they want to. Maybe they can't afford to move away or anything like that, so they've got to stay there. So it's put up or shut up. So they're shutting up rather than putting up.
Rhonda made a statement. Rhonda says, I looked into Mike Osmondson and there was nothing really very incriminating on him. Did you look at the CCAP, Rhonda?
Oh, no, I just used my
Oh, your tool? Yeah. Okay.
little
Yeah,
tool that I have for, yeah.
Gotcha.
And also the reason that he doesn't know Mike's last name per se, this happened 18 years ago, and maybe he knew it at the time and
Right.
he forgot it now. You know what I mean? It could be just as innocent as that.
Well,
I wanted to say that Colette says, but how did he get his helper? Surely he hired him, so he had to pay him. Would think he would have to know his last name unless he was paying him under the table, which I suspect if he was helper, he could have just been, a friend of a friend said, hey, I will ride along. You're going to get a repo, man.
Yeah, it could have been a mate's son or something like that. You know what I mean?
Well, there's other issues with repoing vehicles, and I don't know anyone's ever watched, these repo type videos, but there are people that get violent over you take.
That's what I was just going to say. If it was in the middle of the night like that, he probably needed just to take someone with him, somebody that he knew of or something, because you don't want to go do that in the middle of the night by yourself.
No, not at all. Okay. While you guys are, let's see, let me pull this newspaper thing up. From
while you're doing that, Jack 61, can I just answer a question that was in chat?
Please.
Jennifer Manning asked, what does it mean concede? Does that mean the state gets to change their story? I need to understand it a little more. Basically, if you know what Kratz went through during the trial, he essentially stated that neither the RAV4 nor Teresa left the Avery salvage yard. And there's now a lot of anecdotal evidence to suggest that the RAV4 was indeed off the Avery salvage yard. The state can't change its narrative because remember, what they presented during the trial is regarded as the truth. Kathleen Zellner is providing the alternative narrative, right? And that's what she wants to present this in front of a judge to say, hey, the state got it wrong. And here's the evidence and here are the reasons why. So the state cannot change its narrative, but Kathleen Zellner is presenting an alternative narrative. I hope that clears it up.
Yep, I think it does. Okay. This article was written on the 26th, so it's a couple days old. So anyway, Neverly, are you up to reading this article for us? or at least part of it, or whatever part you want,
Sure,
or if you can't, then it's fine. Okay. Can you?
sure. Give me just one quick second, please.
Sure, sure. Anyway, I'll just scan through this article briefly, and then we go back to the top. It's not that long. So
Is it in Discord?
it's on the screen. I can put the link in Discord if you want to pull it up
Yeah.
on your own.
Would you please? Yeah.
Sure.
Like in slides? Or
Uh,
on our text?
I'll just put it on our text. There you go. It's in there now.
Okay. Stephen Avery murder case. New witness saw Bobby Dassey in Holbach RAV4. Attorney Kathleen Zellner filed a court motion revealing a tow truck driver just gave sworn testimony supporting Stephen Avery's innocence. John Farag, patch staff, posted Friday, May 26, 23 at 3:29 p.m. Central Time. Milwaukee. Kathleen Zellner, regarded as one of the world's leading wrongful conviction lawyers, filed an unexpected motion Friday in Wisconsin, bolstering Stephen Avery's innocence claims in the Halloween 2005 murder of Auto Trader freelance photographer Teresa Halbach. Zellner's motion revealed that a tow truck driver named Thomas Buresh just came forward on May 10, revealing that he saw Bobby Dassey driving Teresa Halbach's RAV4 vehicle in the days following her gruesome death. There was also a second person riding as a passenger with Dassey, according to Buresh, and that second person was not Stephen Avery either. On Friday afternoon, Zellner informed Patch that she, quote, believes this witness is very important in adding to the growing evidence of Bobby Dassey's involvement in the Halbach's murder, end of quote. Avery remains in a Wisconsin prison as state of Wisconsin officials continue to fight back against Zellner's efforts to prove her client's innocence and get him a new trial. Zellner has insisted that Steve Avery's nephew, Bobby Dassey, who testified as a prosecution witness, is the real killer. This week, Buresh signed an affidavit swearing under oath he's telling the truth. Zellner's motion informs the Wisconsin judge handling Avery's post-conviction petition, quote, that Mr. Thomas Buresh corroborates the previously filed affidavit of Thomas Sawinski that Bobby Dassey was driving the RAV4 vehicle of Teresa Halbach on Friday night, November 4th, or early Saturday morning after her disappearance on October 31st, 2005, end of quote. According to Buresh's affidavit that Zellner filed on Friday afternoon, Buresh was employed in 2005 as a self-employed repossession agent on a Friday night, November 4, 2005, or early Saturday morning, November 5, 2005, sometime before 2 a.m. Buresh was driving his tow truck looking to repossess a vehicle in Larrabee, Wisconsin, in the area of Highway 147 and County Road Q in rural Manitoba County. That area is in proximity to the Avery salvage property as well as the Joffre Dant gravel pits. Quote, I noticed the vehicle in the park and ride on highways 147 and 43 that had just struck a deer and had a broken headlight. I gave the driver a roll of duct tape to repair the car, end of quote. I'm just going to pause here. Isn't this kind of chilling to hear that when you hit a deer, you may broken a headlight, right? Does that sound familiar? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the parking lot was broken on the RAV, but I mean, this wasn't the RAV, but a different car, but absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Buresh remembered that he kept on driving on Highway 147 and made a wrong turn, and that made him go south on County Road Q. Quote, After I realized my mistake, I turned around and I was heading back north, Buresh testified in his affidavit to Zellner. As I was heading back north, I noticed a RAV4 driving south on County Road Q. The RAV4 turned left off of County Road Q after it passed me. I noticed the RAV4 because it was unusual to see any other cars out on the road at that time of night. End of quote. Buresh noted that his tow truck had bright, beaming lights that illuminated the RAV4, and that allowed Buresh to see the occupants inside the vehicle as it passed him. Buresh also pointed out that he had his helper named Mike with him, and Mike, who has since passed away, also saw the RAV4. Buresh didn't know Mike's last name. Back in the fall of 2006 and 2007, Buresh watched the TV news reports of Stephen Avery murder trial and, quote, I noticed Bobby Dassey and recognized him as the driver I saw that night in 2005, end of quote. In November 2006, Buresh was lodged in the Brown County Jail in Green Bay, facing a domestic battery charge, and Buresh was back in the jail again in February 2007 for bail jumping. Quote, during the time I was incarcerated, I told a Brown County detective that I had information about the Halbach murder, but was ignored and told, quote, that I was already in enough trouble, end of quote, and to shut up, quote unquote. Friday's affidavit of Buresh revealed, quote, I could not recognize or identify the passenger in the RAV4, but I am 100% sure it was not Stephen Avery, end of quote. Then in 2017 or 2018, Buresh told his brother Ron about his observation of Halbach's RAV4 from back in 2005. Quote, I do not know any of the Avery or Dassey family members personally, but I may have dropped towed vehicles at the Avery salvage yard on a few occasions. End of quote, Buresh noted. Also, quote, I believe I may have encountered Stephen Avery on one occasion at a local McDonald's, but did not converse with him. I do not know Mike Osmondson. End of quote. Osmondson, according to Manitoba County court files, was a friend of Bobby Dassey around the time frame of Halbach's disappearance and murder. The final sentence of Buresh's affidavit reads, quote, nothing has been promised or given to me in exchange for this affidavit. End of quote. Friday's motion was sent to Wisconsin Judge Angela Sutkovitz, the circuit court judge at the Sheboygan County Courthouse, as well as the Assistant Attorney Generals for Wisconsin, Lisa Comfer and Tiffany Winter. Winter and Comfer are responsible for trying to keep Avery locked up in prison. And then you can read Zellner's entire post-conviction if you click on this link.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nerly. Well done.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Excellent, as always. So, he basically just, he reiterated, and it didn't really add too much to what we already covered, but I wanted to get it in on this live because it is part of it, and I did read it. Actually, the link for anyone. I mean, I'm going to put the link to my copy in the video in the description after we're done. So anybody that wants a copy of it, they don't already have it, they can grab it. I got it through Scribd. It's easy to do. So anyway, I wanted to get that read in. And I've also, is there any questions on this before I move on? Because I've got a few Twitter photos that Jinx posted and some other people, and they put them into our Discord. I just screen grabbed them.
So are we going to put up a map and kind of retrace what he says he saw? Because it's interesting that he's throwing in Highway Q, isn't it? Because if he's saying he was coming north from Highway Q onto 147, where does that go? That would go to Xander Road, which is another thing that is just strange to me.
No, I wasn't going to put up a map. Not. I really hadn't had time to kind of do a retracing of his what he said he saw. No, I get what you're saying, but
Because I
yeah,
think what he's saying is he saw it coming north on Q, right? Or south on Q. He was headed north. He made a wrong turn and he passed him. Did I get that right?
but he turned around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I
this
can, I mean, not right away or anything, but I could in the next week or so make a map from Google Earth Pro and share it if anybody's interested, if you're not
Please,
familiar with the
please do
area.
when you get them. And I know you got other irons in the fire, but yeah, if you get a minute, please do that,
Okay.
and we
I
can
would love.
certainly, yep, we can certainly show that. All right, I'm going to pop up a few screen grabs of some social media that was grabbed. That was, like I said, was grabbed by Jinx and some other folks that that this fella has posted. This Tom Buresh. This is from March of Zellner posted. It looks like on February 25th an every update back to circuit court. This was back in 2019. Buresh commented a little while later. It looks like what an amazing woman, inspiring. And the next one is a photo of him. Can't wait to meet all the awesome people. I guess that was at the rally. And this was also posted in June of 2019, so a few months later. Mark Hottendot made a post. I've met with and spoken with Stephen for over 100 hours this year. This is in 2019. I'm a level-headed bloke and not inclined to personal or persuasion unless it first makes sense to me. Stephen Avery didn't commit the crimes he was incarcerated for. I know that with absolute certainty. So does law enforcement. I couldn't agree more, Mark. And then Tom Buresh replied a couple days later, "Never stop, Mark. You're a class act." This one's posted in 2020, June. Only for Irkoze, many people would not know the ins and outs of this case. He has given part of his life to highlight the injustices while contributing to the ongoing struggle of freeing Stephen and Brendan. This is a clear personal attack to try and discredit Irkoze. Yeah, there were a lot of people that were after Richard, and it's unfortunate. He, back when I met Irkoze, I was still really angry about what I felt was done to Brendan, and to a large part Stephen, but I was really, really pissed off about Brendan. If I'd read too much or really read out loud too much of the things that were done to Brendan, I'll really get angry. Having a few times on discussing a murder with Jeff and Big Jeff and Doc and Cal, I get really pissed off, and I know a lot of it affects a lot of people the same way. It's a trigger for me, and I recognize it. Anyway, looks like Tom replied a couple days later. Irkoze is a good, honest man with a ton of class that the haters keep hating. It inspires us to do more. Couldn't agree more. We all miss Richard a lot. He's a good guy. And then,
yes.
Yep, absolutely. This is back to 2019. As under law, I was a repo man in that area most of my life. Clearly, someone cut the fresh key from a blank. It had to be either machine copied or somebody got a key code from the dealership. Or Toyota. Somebody knows something. Another one it looks like the same day in 2019. After reading Zellner Law Update today, I just smiled. The tireless and relentless pursuit for integrity and justice really shows among this group. Wow, all while keeping the highest ethical standards on any world stage. Any names off Drizzen and Rider, my internet wife, and Muting. Guys, stay away. Rider's mine. I'm kidding, of course. It's inspiring to everyone. And then this one is also from, looks like, well, I can't really see the date. Anyway, he says, well then, Bobby, tell the truth, and if you did nothing wrong, you have nothing to worry about. How do you think Brendan and Steven feel, by the way? This Blue Heart, I don't know them. I'm at to the point where Zellner can blame me all she wants. Deep down inside, I know I didn't do it. That's the only way I can keep going every day is because I know I didn't do it. It's got a photo of Bobby. And that's the last one I got. There are more out there. These are just a few. And I included these because I know that others will. So we might as well get it out and, discuss it. So with that said, anybody got anything else they want to talk about this? I mean, it was brought up earlier. I will throw this one out, as in, were there other attempts by this fella to contact Zellner to get this, what he saw out? I don't know that.
No, that's it, Jack. We don't know, and we're probably not going to know until Zellner gets permission to hand in the motion that she wants to hand in. Yeah, I can understand and see why, if that's him in 2019, saying stuff, but to me, it's nothing nefarious. It's nothing shady. It's nothing deceitful.
Well, I
He's
think about
supporting.
I think about what he said to that Brown County officer, whoever it was, that he had information about, this case, and he's basically told shut the hell up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So what's he going to do? He's not going to keep talking about it while he's in the pokey. You know what I mean? So he's going to shut up. And as we say, we don't know how many times he's tried to get in touch with people to report what he knows and been told exactly the same, especially by Manitowoc Police. And
Yeah.
like we say, he did and worked in that area. You know what I mean? So maybe maybe he's moved away from that area now, and that's why he's came forward. Because he doesn't have to look at his shoulder every 2 minutes. I
Now,
don't think.
Sorry.
I was going to say, I don't think people should judge him because of some tweets
Not
that
yet.
he's
Not
done.
yet.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we need more. Yeah, we need more information before we condemn the guy or support him. I mean, I'm really kind of what did you say, Rhonda? Kind of in limbo. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I don't know. It's just I need a lot more information before I can,
Judge.
before I can, take
Yeah.
all of his words for what he means. I just need more time and more information.
Kitty Cat Fur Babies, Kitty Cat Fur Babies Maria says, so is Bobby the main suspect? I'm going to say this, and please take it for what it's worth, because of our own experiences with not only Avery and Dassey, and there are other people, this implication. Now, Kathleen, we all know, she has put Bobby front and center as the Denny, and he is a perfect Denny suspect, because he was there. This isn't about, Bobby must have done it. That's not what I'm saying. But he was present when Teresa was on the property. Stephen was there. There were people up in the shop. I'm sure there could have been people on the yard. But in this instance, he was there at the house when she was there taking the photo of the van. So
So
he
he
is.
had the means, motive, and opportunity.
Well, I'm not sure about motive, but potentially, absolutely, I get what you're saying exactly.
Yeah.
So,
To qualify as a Denny, yeah.
correct. Does that mean he's guilty? No. He's innocent until proven guilty, and we have to keep that because the society has kind of twisted this whole aspect of our criminal justice system, and we have to be fair because if we don't, because we're saying the same thing about Stephen and Brendan, that they were guilty and proven until proven innocent, and we should never take that tact. We should never take that route. We should stay on the path. As far as we know, we have to accept right now. That doesn't mean we can't question, because we should. But as we stand here right now, we have to say Bobby is innocent. He's not been charged with anything. So I wanted to say that. As for Kitty Cat, I hope that answers your question. In Zellner's motions and what she said, he is a Denny suspect and he needs to be questioned. Does that mean he's a suspect? Well, maybe to Kathleen. I can't really truly answer that, but maybe somebody else can give their spin on it, Doc or someone.
I'll try.
Doc's had to go because his nurse is there, he says, so.
Oh, okay. All right.
Basically, Kathleen Zellner is coming up with the alternative person who could have done this. In this case, Bobby fits the bill because, as Jack said, he was there. He does not have an alibi. His involvement with dark web and porn searches and whatnot could be a motive. Again, nobody is saying, at least we don't think that Bobby is the killer. Some people do. But he fits the bill of an alternative suspect. And in court, she needs to present an alternative suspect to prove that Stephen didn't do it. It could have been somebody else. And in order to do that, to qualify as a Denny, you have to prove that that person had means, opportunity, and motive. Unfortunately, during the trial, defense attorneys for Stephen could not have used that. They didn't have that option. I will never understand why, but that's how it was. They couldn't say somebody else did it because that would be a Denny. And if you watched Ma'am, you could see Kratz just saying, objection, Denny, that's a Denny, judge, again, Denny, and they couldn't do that. So now she's trying to do that, to say, hey, judges, state of Wisconsin, I have a person who I can prove that could have done the job. It wasn't Stephen. There you go. That's very, very simplified. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the star witness and he lied.
Thank you. And because he was a star witness who pointed the finger to his uncle, usually, or sometimes when you have a star witness, that means like they were either coerced, threatened, or basically pushed into that role. Like, if it's not you, Bobby, if it's not Stephen, then they're coming after you.
That's
unless
right.
you want to help us. And I
That's
think,
right.
I believe that they twisted Bobby's arm to be in that position.
Yep, I think so too.
Look
Yep,
how they treated.
great
Look how they
points.
treated him. Look how they treated him in that interview. That November 9th interview that Jinx got. I mean, my God. It was forever before they finally released it, and I don't blame them. It was a terrible, terrible interview. Yeah. You can say whatever you want about, the computer. Yeah, all that computer stuff should have been turned over to the defense. Um, but keep in mind, Bobby wasn't the only one in the house. Even though we know that computer was in his bedroom, at least for a period of time, he wasn't the only one there. He wasn't the only teenager there, teenage boy. And
Yeah.
I'm sure teenage girls, do their own fair share of looking as well. But there were boys mainly in that house, young men. They're going to look if they have the opportunity, unless
And that's what
somebody's.
the state is saying. That's why they're not allowing Zellner to proceed with that motion, that it's not enough proof that that's the motivation part, right? Because he wasn't the only one in the house. So she's trying to link Bobby to provable facts, not just, oh, I saw him or whatever. She needs to prove, which is, of course, to win on an appeal, it's like, darling, almost impossible to win an appeal. Almost impossible.
Well,
So she needs to work really, really hard to make this happen. And she's taking this approach.
you never know what's happening if a hearing is granted, at least on, several of these, the Sowinski part, getting various witnesses on the stand. You never know what gets said. You just you just don't have any idea which direction it could lead off to. What evidence could have been, withheld. Think about the 22 CDs, DVDs that we got last year that Manitowoc County withheld for 16 and a half years. That was significant to me. Was it Brady? Well, I think it was, because they had been asked for forever and withheld. A new guy walks in and finds them within a couple of weeks of him taking the post after another records custodian had been there for decades. It's terrible. The appearance of it is terrible. I don't care how you slice it. Is it relevant? I think personally it is, because it shows a willingness to withhold, because I know Beauty and Strength asked for radio and dispatch calls. They did ask. But the real thing is that Kratz had them. He should have turned them over during the discovery process. Even Lois should have had some of them, if not all. And to our knowledge, he did not.
It's the same thing with the Belly CD.
It is the same thing as with the Belly CD.
Because if they'd have had that at trial, and Kratz knows, if they'd have had Kratz, Gahn, and Fallon all knew that Belly CD would sink their case.
Fassbender knew it too.
That's which is why they told Fassbender to keep it safe. I mean, he literally put for safekeeping, right? And what that means is to keep it away from the defense, so the defense couldn't use it to impeach their star witness. And dirty. That is so slimy. That's not justice.
No, it's not. But there's no way that somebody's going to decide, that the state is going to decide to go and prosecute somebody and turn over the exculpatory evidence to them. There's no way that's going to happen.
But that's the law.
Although that's the law, but they're not going to do it.
So working in their profession, because if they're not going to play fair, then the process from the beginning is
broken. It's broken.
Not
That's
right.
Well,
the scales of justice are tipped, and that's correct.
Their question always comes back, well, would it have made a difference at trial? I think about all the things that we have. I talked about this a little bit yesterday during the reading with the crew. I think about all the things that we just take for granted because we got so much information the jury never saw, after, especially moving forward into 2017 and 2018. They never heard or saw, and the defense didn't hear it either. And again, I'm 100% positive in what I'm telling you. There are calls we still don't have. We have nothing for November 4th. No radio transmissions from Manitowoc.
Nothing.
For November the 4th.
Which is the day before all the shit hits the fan, right?
That's right. But Teresa was still a missing person.
Yep. And the day Sowinski and Buresh are both claiming that they saw something. How many other people saw that and called it in?
That's what I'm saying. We have other tips. We have a few, but how many tips that they received that we never heard, we don't know about?
Yeah.
And probably never will. a lot of the calls that we have are, I don't know, we have snapshots. We've been covering these in going back and look at the dispatch calls. I've tried to make it as easy to follow through as possible, right?
Yep. And another shady, slimy thing to add to this is the interview of the spring. I think their names are the Spring Tubes, the neighbors, where they ask what time your newspaper comes.
Yeah.
The only neighbor of the Averys that I know of that was asked that question. Right. And I find that very curious because that was Sawinski's profession. Sawinski claimed he saw something. He also claimed he called it in. And it's like a preemptive strike. That's what that question is. They wanted something on paper to discredit him in case Sawinski was wise enough to the game to and able to reach out to Buting and Strang and get this information to them.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that, and I've listened to hundreds of calls, and it's unfortunate if a connection is made from dispatch to an outside line, there's a new connection created and the recording is broken. There are many calls I wish we had the other end of it, and we just don't. It's unfortunate.
And let's not forget Kevin Ramlow, who texted Scott Tadich.
Yep.
And Scott didn't do a thing with it. He was sick. Yeah.
Nope. Nothing.
So basically, all the phone calls that we had with tips that citizens have left on the tip line, they didn't do anything. They didn't use any of it.
Think about the geotagging. The guy was geocaching, not geotagging. Geocaching. He found all that blood on that tree, all over the tree and on the roots. As far as we know, they didn't do anything. Why wasn't it checked? We have another. Mr. President says, if Teresa's dark green RAV was burned at Xander and seized by MTSO on 11/3 evening before learning of Jody's call, and they needed to restage at Avery Salvage Yard, scrubbing 11/3 calls would be one way to hide that. I'm gonna, you guys talk for a minute. I'm gonna pull up something here if I can find it right quick. I'm not sure everyone has seen it, and it's a report that I got from Green Bay. How's it at? Yeah, here it is. Just a second. I'll pull it up here. So this was a open records request I worked on with no, that's not it. Just a second. There it is. This is a open records request I worked on with Yora's. I sent this to Green Bay and Calumet, and what it was a keyword search for the old address where Teresa lived, which we had that report already, and I also, in the same request, a keyword search for Teresa Halbach, any incidents. Okay, so this one here is about basically a very minor fender bender, and it was on October 11th, 2004. And I'm guessing Teresa is the one that made the call to Green Bay. The officer comes, but I want you to notice what he lists here. He's got it listed in the CAD comments. There's no entry, out of traffic, blue Toyota. It says R. I'm guessing that means RAV. Blue though is the key word here. So even he called it blue, and this was basically a year prior. So you know, I personally believe there's only one vehicle. I understand why other people believe that there's a second one, but I think that all originates from the way it was described by the Department of Transportation. For whatever reason, I don't know that process. I wish we had contact with someone that did know when this information gets entered into the to create the title for a car and the major color and this color shifting paint that Toyota used. Uh, you know, I don't know why it was entered as dark green, but as from the
Because the mother said that.
well, she said sort of right, and it also the news report also said it, and they had a dark green RAV on the news.
True.
And no one came forward and said, "Hey, look, it is kind of green, but it's really kind of blue too." And in the sun, it looks blue. You get it off in the shade, and it kind of shifts towards the green spectrum. So
Yeah, but Karen did say it was a dark green RAV. That's what she reported it as, was a dark green RAV. It was
well,
dark green.
she said dark green, sort of.
I can't
Mm,
remember her saying sort of. The only
yeah.
one I can remember saying sort of was Pam of God when she says it's bluish green, sort of. So, but
Duck.
sorry, I've lost my train of thought. On you go.
I was going to say Teresa's mum said kinda.
Yeah.
Dark green,
Not
kinda.
not sorta, kind of. Yeah, she did.
Yeah. And
She go ahead.
I was going to say, we've actually seen photographs of the very same RAV4 that was inside the crime lab under the lights. You can clearly see it's blue. And yet outside in the sunlight, it's dark green. And it's got its color. It's the Mystic Teal Mica, and it changes color depending on the lighting conditions.
Yeah, but again, I can understand why people equate this to a second vehicle. I've even heard stories of a potential being a third RAV.
Yeah.
And until I see more, I can't make that leap. But I understand why people can. I do. Anyway, I wanted to
Yeah.
put that report up to show what this officer observed when he got there. He called it blue. So, okay.
Oh, Kratz was determined to change the color of the RAV.
Oh yeah, he did it several times at trial.
Yes. And Mr. President says there's a reason Kratz doesn't like it when two RAVs are discussed and try to ban the topic.
Yeah, but I mean, remember when because KZ had a blue RAV because that was the only color that she could get, which was the exact same car as Teresa. A lot of people were saying, well, it can't work then because it's not the same. But it was the same, just because of the frigging colour, you know what I mean? Yeah, certain lights, it looked green. Certain light, it looked blue. You know, the mother said it was dark green, kind of. You know, so maybe the majority of the time it looked green, but as we say, it was Mystic Teal Mica. And the research that's been done, that is what the paint has came up that was used on that style of RAV in the year that RAV was made, you know. So yeah, I swallowed the two RAV theory at the beginning because it did sound like there was two RAVs because of the green and the blue and everything else, you know. But you do your research like we've done and you look into it, you realise, no, it's only one RAV, but it works as two colours. I mean, just the other day there, I seen a car driving past me and it looked pink when it was sitting at the traffic lights, but as soon as it turned and went up the hill, it looked purple, you know, like a pinky purple. So it just depends.
Yeah. That's right. What else? Do we have any? I see some commenting going on in the live chat. Yeah. Before I forget, I did have it pinned. I'm sure Rhonda will cover this before we get out of here in a bit. She's going to have a special edition live tomorrow night reading the opening. Isn't it the opening statements for Daniel's case, Rhonda?
Yes. Yep.
Excellent. Yeah, you can talk about it here in a few minutes before we get out of here.
Yep.
I'm trying to see if there's any other questions that we want to cover. Danny Mellis says, good reading with the crew last night. Police report about the RAV4 being found in the group of the 5 girls off of the southwest corner of Avery Salvage Yard. Yeah, before Pam found it. Yeah, that was really that's really an interesting intersection. We really know very little other than Jolene Bain is the one that was one of the 5 kittens. We call them the 5 kittens, but Teresa's friends, Jolene Bain was the one that talked to Poggle and told him about Bradley Check. And of course, then they found the photos, which is interesting. Wonder what else they took out of the house that we're really unaware of. I've always questioned that. Because as far as I know, they didn't have a search warrant. What else we have here in the chat? Oh, that's about all I see. William says, hey guys, I only know what was presented in MAM and didn't know all of this ins and outs like some of you. Is there a general consensus as to who moved the RAV onto the Avery property? I think you could probably talk to, my personal opinion, you could probably talk to 100 people and you'd have probably 50 different replies. I don't know what to think, honestly. If I'm really honest, I don't know what to think. I do think that it was definitely moved off the property somewhere. My personal opinion, it was probably kept under canopy, possibly near the deer camp area, which is right there at Cuss Road. That area seems to be tied together. With what they found at Cuss Road, and to me that is a crime scene. There's just no doubt in my mind until somebody can talk me down off the ledge. And this is because of what Fallon put in his reply to a motion that Buting and String had filed in 2006. And he talks about the clandestine burial site and bones being found, and these officers being stretched to the limit on having to, go to all these various tips and reports that they're trying to check out. So he talks about bones being found there. All the officers that were called to that scene, the crime lab, the mobile crime lab was called over there, an ambulance, a fire truck. There was probably 40 or 50 officers throughout the day. They were there. They blocked the road. No one was allowed in or out. Basically you couldn't come down there. They banned the dog from coming over there to going into track, which was it Brutus or Loof? I can't remember which one it was.
Loof. It was Loof. Pagel prevented Loof from crossing the crime scene tape at Cuss Road. But let me tell you right now, maybe in next week's podcast or the podcast after, we're going to be looking at the dog tracks. And I'll tell you what, this is going to blow your mind, because Sheriff Pagel asked the Loof's dog handler, Falski, and I'll read it out if I can. It's just one sentence.
Please.
If this is track 4, and you think about all the things that we've been discussing. Pagel asked Sarah Fausk, DCI agents and Sheriff Pagel asked if K9 Loof will be able to pick up Teresa Horbach's scent if it were in a vehicle. Now, isn't that interesting?
Yep.
And guess where Loof started? At the end of Cuss Road and went straight down towards the Avery salvage yard, past the hunting shacks. So what does Pagel know that we don't know? Why the hell would he be asking Sarah Fausk with her scent dog, oh, can you follow a trail if Teresa Horbach was in her RAV4? Excuse me? Wasn't the RAV4 meant to be on the Avery salvage yard and nowhere else? It's unbelievable what these guys are doing.
Well, speaking of the interactive map, let's do this right here just for a second. This is a map created by Yoras, and it is simply fantastic for a researcher. Let's see if I can make this bigger here. So you got all these sections on the side that Yoras has put in. You can zoom in, and he's got, like I said, he's got all these sections. So let's just remove. We'll just go down and remove a bunch of this, and we'll just do a very minimal thing here. I'm going to leave the scent dogs there. And it looks like he's added some more. Let's all look at this. So this is only the scent dog tracks that he's got listed, that Yoras is listed here. That's pretty amazing, considering that allegedly this all happened on the Avery salvage yard, right? I mean, it is to me. And none of this. Go ahead, Doc.
Sorry, Jack, it's extremely damning. And like I said, in maybe the next or the following reading with the crew, we'll be looking at the dog tracks. They are very damning. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. It really is very, very damning.
Yeah, absolutely. Hold on a second, guys. You guys talk for a minute.
James. Yoga and chat says, you guys did an excellent job in covering the Cuss Road investigation. Everyone should listen to that podcast. It was powerful and somehow it got buried. I completely agree.
I mean, we really didn't know anything about Cuss Road until we got the case investigator report, and even that's it's really minimal. And John Dettering says nothing was found there, and he was there. He wanted to act like he wasn't there. He was there, as we found out later. Actually, not that long ago. But you look at I mean, you can just look at Avery salvage yard, and then look at all the tracking off of the yard. Go ahead, Doc.
Same with Fassbender and Uyghur. They were down there too.
Yep.
So it's rather interesting that you've got this potential observation by Buresh that puts the RAV in the vicinity of Cuss Road, because it's gone down Highway Q. So it's all starting to come together rather nicely, actually. and
Absolutely.
pointing directly at Cuss Road. There's something of major importance took place there.
That's right. You know, and I turned off the dog tracks. I turned on the human and possible human bones found, and all the way down to here. I mean, look at the distance here. Over here, here at the burial site, and you've got several areas throughout here, and even up here. This is Michael's quarry. Isn't that right, Doc? This one up here.
Jack, can you open that map all the way to
correct.
cover the screen somehow?
That's Mitchell's quarry.
Mitchell's quarry.
Yep, that's the one where they found the tissue and the blood. And that's the one that Colhane said was non-human in origin, despite 3 hits by cadaver dogs that detect human decomposition.
What do you mean? Open it all the way. Close the side panel.
Like on full screen. I don't know if that allows for it. Like on YouTube or whatever, you can put it on full screen.
Well, I did the F11 and hid the overhead bar.
Okay, it's okay. I don't have my glasses on. I couldn't see very well.
I mean, without closing the side panel, all I can do is zoom in and out.
It's fine. I've looked at it before. It's not like I can't go look at it again. It's okay. I was just curious.
And then the scent dog. Oh, I had the scent dogs. Let's do the cadaver dog. Only. That's cadaver dog alerts. I apologize. Let's see, scent dog tracks. Yeah. I'll turn this other one off. I mean, looking at this as an overhead, you think about the Avery salvage yard being here, and you got tracks all the way down here. You're probably, it's hard for me to judge the distance, but I'm guessing this is at least a mile and a half away, even as the crow flies, and let alone having to take a road or whatever. So that's pretty far that they've tracked all the way down to here. I mean, what the hell, man? That tells me that I think there's even one radio transmission or a call, and it might have been the one that I just redid, or one associated to it that Duke did the legwork and found out that the call that we really kind of thought it was Rob and the two Herman brothers talking to each other, but actually the caller was Deputy Inspector Shetter. And I think it's during one of those calls or one associated to it that somebody said, I don't remember which one, that the dogs have become a problem. It's kind of a glancing statement. I'll see if I can dig that up, that I thought was interesting. And in all honesty, I think it probably was, Doc, because I think they knew if this really got thrown out in court like the way yours has mapped this out here. Can you imagine how powerful that would have been to the jury? These dogs were spending all this time off the property. My God.
Yeah, the activity by the dogs, both scent and cadaver dogs, is actually very damning, because a lot of the activity is off the Avery salvage yard, which the state cannot explain.
And could the state actually say that wouldn't make the difference with jurors? I think it would have made a difference.
I think it would have too.
It's like, why the dogs are not hitting on Stephen Avery's trailer, garage, anywhere on the property? Why not? You know what I mean?
Yep.
I would be like, huh? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what the hell are they doing at Cuss Road? What
Yes,
the hell are
exactly.
they doing at Cuss Road? That's both a cadaver dog and a scent dog, right?
Yeah.
There's no way that a scent dog should be tracking towards that area there, let alone a cadaver dog. So, in my opinion, that is actually quite damning, right? And it leads to deeper questions because the state is saying that Teresa nor her RAV4 ever left the property. The dog activity is proving that supposition is in actual fact wrong. Teresa and her RAV4 appear to be off the property, right? You've got all these people observing the RAV4, and you've got scent and cadaver dogs spending more time off the property than on the property, right? So I think take that all together is actually quite damning.
It really
Yeah.
is.
What's really bothersome is that the state can just say, oh, in our opinion, that wouldn't make a difference. So it's just
Bullshit.
their opinion
It,
that we go
honestly,
by.
I
I
mean,
don't
Except
understand that part.
guys, I just think about if I was on the jury, that what I've got isolated here, yours is put in. What does it say up here? Query evidence finds, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's particularly damning, but these are human bones that were found. So you got a real problem here. Either these are bones of Teresa, or somebody else got killed, and they didn't open an investigation, like they didn't give a shit. They didn't care.
yeah, but there's a problem for the state. And the problem for the state is that Eisenberg said that she had examined all of the cremains, all of them, from all
Yep.
the locations.
Yep.
And her conclusion was there were no duplicate bones. And when she weighed all the bones, they came to about, 50%, 40 to 50%
Yep.
of what you would expect for an adult human female
That's right.
of Teresa's age and stature, which means that there is nobody else. All those cremains have come from one individual. You cannot explain what the hell Stephen Avery is doing playing Santa Claus with cremains and going all over the place. It doesn't make any sense. It does make sense if someone is trying to hide what they've done, right? Trying to disguise what they've done. They spread the cremains. It's definitely not the activity of Stephen Avery or Brendan Dassey, because there's no way that Stephen is going to leave some of the bones in his own burn pit. And remember that phone call, Jack 61, where the officer said, oh, there was only a small amount of bones in Stephen's burn pit. The rest we found elsewhere. How do you work that one out?
Exactly. It's like right now I've got up here selected. These are burn sites and barrels, and you can see. And one over, and this one over here on the left. I'm sure that's the deer. Is that the deer camp? Yeah, it's deer camp. And they guarded this one too, which I found a little strange. They put a guard on this barrel here. What else we have here we can look at right quick before we go? Did we do quarry? I think I did. Yeah, this is the one I had up a minute ago. Hold on a second. All right, guys. Anyway.
That's right. Just like BB said, they came in a box and left in a box.
Well, yeah. I mean, none of the bones in that box were geotagged from it. They could have came from anywhere.
I
They
did
didn't.
I did a dive on the box, and it's traveling, and I'm not the only one. Other people have done it, and that whole narrative around the custody of the box, where the box went, who had the box, is just so bizarre, because the box actually doesn't really get documented until I think the 11th. Does that sound right? It's on paper on the 9th, but I don't think we have a picture of it until the 11th. We have narrative, but no proof. And I don't know about anybody else, but I don't trust anything these people say as taking place how they say it unless there's corroborating evidence.
Oh, I have a huge problem with what they say. Go ahead, Doc.
I was going to say the entire thing is extremely suspicious because there wasn't a coroner nor a forensic anthropologist at the burn site, which means how in the hell did they sift these cremains and decide that they were human, animal, or otherwise, right? Normally, if you find a burn site and evidence of a human body that's been burnt, it's tools down, guys. You don't touch anything. You call in a forensic anthropologist and the coroner. I can't believe that Erdl just said that, oh, I just sifted the ash pile. This is what I found. We put them in a box and we gave them to Dr. Bennett. What? If you had
go ahead,
I was going to say, if you had a forensic anthropologist, they would have said, guys, these are chicken bones. These are animal bones. To go through all that effort without taking one in situ photograph or a video is highly, highly suspicious.
And then if you look at the photo of the bags in the box of the bones, and then you compare that to Eisenberg's testimony about what was actually determined to be human, the human bone fragments, if I'm correct, besides BZ, which was 1.5 inches, the rest of them are 1/2 inch or smaller, right?
They're tiny.
Yes, but those bones in that box, the bones in the box are 3 to 4 inches. So they had to have been other than humans.
I would say there was a mixture.
Yeah. But, this photo here is the golden goose, in my opinion. This is November 6th. Doc and I have talked about this photo at length. And Reese was just walking around the property just taking photos so they could potentially stick it into this total control unit or whatever they call it for reconstruction purposes, right? Doc knows this.
Correct.
So this photo of the pit itself was taken on the 6th. There's no crime scene tape. They don't give a damn about it. Bear didn't give a crap. But they're saying a pile of bones was found here. Where at? There's nothing here. There's a bunch of rocks.
No. And more importantly, or as importantly, there becomes out. So on the 10th, right now there's a shovel, and then it looks like maybe a rake to the backside of Bear, right? But on the 10th, all of a sudden there's going to be all these other large items found that give the lend to the believability of the story that they did a burning of a body, but they're not here.
No. I mean, in order to have done what they're saying, there would have had to have been a grate of some kind here, and fuel shoved up underneath, and fuel to do that, and it would have taken hours. And there's no way that somebody wouldn't have seen that and smelled it. No way.
And Bear gives you a scale of how big this burn pit is.
Yep.
Okay. That is a very small blackened area.
It is.
To have a 10-foot high over the roof of the barn bonfire.
I mean, but not only that. I mean, if you zoom back into that actual pit, Jack, where is the wire of the tire that this so-called bone was supposed to have been mixed in with and everything like that?
Not there.
There is no remnants of a burnt tire, whether it's a tire of a bike, a motor, or what. There is nothing there in that burn pit. Absolutely nothing.
No. And then think about how bring the skid steer in and destroy it all and make it look so much more what's the word?
They increased the dimensions of it. They made it bigger
Yeah,
by
they
digging.
make it look more likely to have burned a body. And
they dug this entire. I mean, they did their thing, and then they came back on the 10th and 11th, and they dug all this up, every bit of it, and they flattened it. They completely took all this material, which was nothing, just a bunch of old burnt shit, chicken bones and just trash, a few tires, which, Steve had admitted that he had burned some tires, but I don't think there was that many. And it was taking far more than 6 tires to have consumed that body. Like, I've burned tires before. And depending, if you have a little bit of kerosene or whatever, it doesn't take that long to burn a tire. It just doesn't.
And one other thing is the brown tarp. That's like a pet peeve of mine. We have no photographs of that brown tarp being loaded. We only have the brown tarp in evidence, and we have the brown tarp, I believe, was it at Cuss?
Well, there was a blue. There was a blue tarp over at Cuss. I know there's a photo of that brown tarp somewhere in here, but I don't remember exactly where it's at, Christina.
Yeah, but I don't think we have one at Stephen Avery's. And supposedly, I believe it's evidence tag. If it is, it's crazy. I still remember it. 7923. And it's that's it, isn't it? But
I think so.
That tarp is like the biggest red flag because it's the only brown tarp. It's like they had to know, they had to differentiate. They needed a color scheme. Put anything suspicious on that tarp, and then we're going to say it came from Stephen Avery's burn pit. That's what it's
talking about Bear, and Doc found another gold mine with that exit video. That was it Tyson, Doc, and
there were two officers that went through the property, several properties, and took videos. And they just came out of Stephen Avery's garage, and they caught Bear just casually walking and then turning around and casually walking back, totally ignoring them. So it's that's quite damning evidence that the fact that Bear wasn't aggressive, he really just didn't care at all.
They were standing over here beside this where Bear's doghouse is, back up in this area here. And Bear was over here just walking around, and he just didn't give a shit. Go ahead, Al.
No, he was nonchalant, wasn't he? Katna, you crack me up. She really does. She says, that photo that you've got up of Bear, Jack, she says, it looks like one of those dog shaming pics, but instead Bear is wearing a sign that says, I did not dig this hole.
It wasn't me.
She cracks me up.
Yeah, she's Cat's a rascal. But and I don't know if this is back far enough. I can't tell exactly scale wise, but to me, allegedly Jost found this whatever outside the pit, like 6 or 8 feet, wasn't it, Doc? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, it was in the grass. But, the damning thing is that Trooper Reese actually proved the state's narrative was just complete, utter crap. Because in the next reading with the crew, I've actually got, I discussed this in more detail, the fact that Trooper Reese was standing right next to the burn pit, and he didn't notice any smell, no foul smell. He never reported an aggressive dog, and he definitely didn't report seeing any bones. To me, there's a change in narrative that took place between the 7th and the 8th, right? It's just like the finding of the RAV, right? On November the 4th, there's no RAV. On November the 5th, all hell breaks loose.
All hell breaks loose.
The same with the cremains, guys. They are blaming Bear for the mere factor that none of the investigators found any evidence of cremains. Yet we have Trooper Reese standing right in front of Stephen Avery's burn pit, never reports any smell, never reports seeing any bones, never reports seeing an aggressive dog. And notice, did they call Trooper Reese? Did they
Hell
call
no.
Trooper Reese?
Hell no.
Hell no. Hell no.
Well, I mean, if you look at the grassy area around here now, I know we're back far enough now. I don't see anything except some leaves, maybe a couple sticks, but I don't see any bones laying here at all.
And also the fact that you think about it, right? A burnt human body would have driven someone like Bear insane. Because remember,
Absolutely.
A German Shepherd has got 225 million olfactory receptors.
Yeah.
Even if you don't smell it, the dog's going to smell it. You can't see an agitated dog, right? There is no way in hell that Teresa Horbach was burnt in that burn pit. The remains were brought there, likely on the morning of the 8th.
I 100% agree with that. Absolutely. Because they reported, I don't remember if it was Sturtevant's report. I know that there's a couple that said that they found a pile of bones in that burn pit. That's bullshit. It's absolute crap.
Correct. And just to answer a question, Brutus actually alerted on 2 of the Yonder burn barrels, right? Now, we don't know what was in those burn barrels, but Brutus on November the 5th, the night of November the 5th, hit on 2 burn barrels, that the Yonder burn barrels. Now, we know that Yonder burn barrel number 2 had contained cut, burnt human remains, right? No question about that. But we don't know what was in the other burn barrel. Remember, a cadaver dog detects human decomposition, so it could have even been blood.
So I have a question.
Yep.
If you were not familiar with the layout of the Avery salvage yard and you found 4 burn barrels of the Yonda that belong to Yonda, but you don't know that belong to the Dassey house, but you don't know that, are the burn barrels positioned in between Stephen and Barb's trailer at a point where if you didn't know Stephen had his own burn barrel, you might think that they share them or they're Stephen's?
It is a considerable distance from Stephen Avery's burn pit. Those 4 burn barrels are actually much closer to Barb's place.
Yeah.
They're just behind her. They're just behind her. And it's interesting because remember what Josh Redont said? I saw the fire on October the 31st, but it appeared to be contained in a burning barrel, a 55-gallon burning barrel. That's not describing the burn pit, right? So there's something going on. There's something fishy going on here. And there's no way that Josh Redont saw Stephen Avery's burn barrel. It's too far away and it would have been blocked.
I might have a photo here. Let me see. We'll pull these up just for a second. Just a second here.
Did I miss a question? Because I've often thought maybe they planted those bones thinking that those 4 burn barrels were the burn barrels. And because if it was nighttime and you weren't familiar with Stephen's property layout and you didn't know he had a burn pit in his own burn barrel, would it have been easy to think that those 4 could have been tied to Stephen because there wasn't one for him? Does that make sense?
I know that we've got a photo somewhere showing those burn barrels, and they, like Doc said, they are quite a ways from Avery's trailer. I guess somebody could have confused it, but
well, I mean, the trailers are only like 100 yards apart. So how far can they be? I know it looks like a long distance, but if someone who's been out there can verify, I'm pretty sure those trailers are only like 300 feet apart, right?
Yeah, they're not that far, but the yards kind of angle at a kind of a weird kind of way, if that makes sense. One's angled kind of back towards Cuss Road. Barb's is more angled a little bit different way the other direction. So let me see if I can find another photo that's better.
Barrels.
Rhonda, yous were there, was it last year or the year before yous were there? Did yous manage to get up that far on the property to see what the distance was between the two trailers?
No, we weren't allowed on the property.
Right, okay.
Respectfully, I mean, I'm not complaining, just, yeah, we were
Yeah,
asked.
yeah,
on the property.
no, that's completely understandable. I just knew
We
that
did
yous were.
go into the office to buy some t-shirts, but that's all we did.
This is roll 3, taken on 11/6, and it's labeled Yonda Property. Right, there's another roll. The first roll is also labeled Yonda Property. So we'll just take a quick peek here. There's one of her dogs. This is indicative about another call that, if you guys remember, that Carla Avery called the MTSO about getting these animals off the property, and she was told, "Oh, they're all gone. Somebody come and got them." Well, it was her that came and got one, but she said there were still a couple of cats and a couple of dogs. Well, here's one dog right here behind Barb's house. I don't know this dog's name. And then, still not. I think the barrels are even further behind than what this is right here. I don't know if we have photos of them in this group though.
Hold on, where is Steven's trailer from that picture?
Well, you can see it on this photo here. You can see it's up here. Like I said, his property angles back a little bit different direction, and this is Barb's property over here to the right. That's
all right,
Barb's.
There. So Barb's trailer's to the right, Steven's to the left, right?
Yep.
All right, now where's Barb's burn barrels?
Well, I think they're kind of back over here, right, Doc?
Her burn barrels are behind her property, and they're in between her garage and her trailer. Jack 61, I've got an animated picture of it. Remember the very first reading with the crew, chapter 14. It's picture 6E. If you got it in your list, it's one of the very first reading with the crew that we did. It's picture 6E. It's an animation picture, and it shows Stephen Avery's trailer, Yonda's trailer, and where the burn barrels are.
What's that?
Go ahead.
What's that tent over?
Reading with the crew.
The very first one.
I've never seen this picture. What is that canopy tent over? Does anybody know?
No, I don't know what that one is.
That's like the most professional thing I've seen in this investigation.
Do you remember what the very first one was called? What it's like? Because I've got these. I've got these in here. They're labeled as the chapter that we did. Do you know what?
Yeah, it's chapter 14, and it's the very first reading with the crew that we did on this chapter. Remember when we talked about Growell and what he smelt? So it's chapter 14. It's 6E.
Oh, the canine.
The canine ones. Yep, canine noses. Remember when we talked about what Growell smelt and what Redont saw?
Got it. Fixing to pull it up.
And there's, you can actually see where the burn barrels are.
How about that?
It's funny how they use Zoom to make it look so much bigger than what it is.
Yeah, that's the one. So there's no way
Okay,
that
you're
there's
right.
no way Redon could have seen Stephen's burn barrel because it's hidden from point of view. So he either saw Stephen Avery's burn pit, or he saw something from one of the burn barrels, yonder burn barrels, which is interesting.
Yeah. So it's quite a ways away from
Yeah.
Stevens area, so they couldn't have really. I guess they could, but
The only
yeah,
way they could do that is if they didn't know Stevens was the red trailer.
yeah,
Because the way the van's parked, if you didn't know that Stevens trailer was the red one, maybe. I just always thought it was odd, those two men. But I don't think Bobby killed her, personally. I think that,
personally, I don't either. Whatever his involvement may be, I don't think it was that. But I do think they leaned on him hard.
oh yeah, he lied his butt off to save his own ass, for sure.
I don't think he really had any idea at the time though where it would lead with his brother. I can't believe that. I mean, I don't really know Bobby, but I know brothers, and even in sometimes the worst of situations, brothers just won't intentionally incriminate another brother or get them in potential trouble. They just won't do it. I know
Well,
I probably wouldn't have.
well, I think I don't think he was smart enough because he was young. I don't think he saw. I think they probably lied to them. Brendan will get off. It won't be so bad. We're just using him. It's never going to go to trial. He's not going to do any time. Blah 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 blah. And they just never let up, right? So he never got a chance to breathe and actually think.
Well,
You're gonna, and if you don't say this, it's going to be okay for Brendan. Steven's not a good guy. Blah 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 blah.
He's gonna jam you up.
Yep. Yep. If you don't say this, he's going to say you did it. It's either him or you. Blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about Brendan. We're not going to do anything to him. We're not those kind of guys. And then now he's at a point where they did it to Brendan. They've done it to Steven. And I got to live here. So, and
Yeah.
Zellner trying to say, if you don't come forward and tell the truth, they're going to keep doing the same shit to others, right? You have the power here. If you do the right thing, there's a chance we can fix it where no one else has to go through what your family has been through. You're the
Yeah.
cord that can unravel it all if you just grow a pair, be a man, and tell the truth.
Travis says, I don't think there was a single person on that property that knew where things would lead. Steve, for sure, had no clue. Barb, Brendan, Bobby, Earl, Chuck. And I agree with Travis. I think that once that Stephen filed that lawsuit in October of 2004, the target was put right on his forehead, and they were going to get him. In fact, I'm sure of it. I've said that since I really got to read a lot of the information we had in 2016, and you could just see. This is just from my personal viewpoint. I'm not asking anyone to believe what I believe, but I believe that he was targeted. They were going to make sure. Look at what they did. I mean, you can't tell me he gets arrested on a gun charge on November 9th, knowing that Historic was scheduled to testify the next day, unlimited testimony that he had tried to get out of. He tried to use his position as former sheriff. I can't talk about certain things. The judge says, yeah, you are. You're gonna talk. You're gonna give full testimony. You're not protected.
And right after Kasurik, 5 days later was Vogel. And
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And if neither one of them could afford to be held under
Opposed.
oath.
Nope.
Yep.
Well, Glenn and Kelly are both extremely good lawyers, but I think that was the biggest mistake of the case, of the saga.
This is my defense of them. Just like they did Bobby, I think Glenn and Kelly were scared they were going to kill Stephen.
Well, I do too. I do too, Christina.
And I think they really thought if they went forward with that, if they would have went forward with that lawsuit, they would have killed their client. And they're ethical, moral men who didn't want his death on their hands. And I disagree with what they did because they basically killed him anyway. You know what I mean? They pretty much his life. You had an opportunity to get the truth into the record. And hindsight being 2020, they probably know that now.
Yeah.
Well, look what Sheriff Peterson said, right? You don't need any more. You don't need any more subtle hint than that. But the other important thing is what can I say? The fact that they all know each other, and that's something that we discussed yesterday in reading with the crew. That isn't it interesting how Pam Stern was asked, "Do you know Pagel? Have you ever spoken to him? Do you know him?" She goes, "No, no, no," right? And there had to be a reason, and the reason had to be that, okay, so you all know each other, so hence there's a direct lineage between the chief investigator, Pagel, all right, knowing the Hallbarks, and he's a cousin to Pam Stern's husband, so they know each other, and Ryan Hilligus is the ex-boyfriend, and Pam Stern just happens to roll up at Teresa's place when very likely Sheriff Pagel is there because he's there sending the facts. So he's sending the facts. Right. And so when you look at all these incidences and put them all together, you can start checking a few boxes. And as you can see, one of the issues that we've been discussing is tunnel vision, right? And, a lot of people made some good points in chat, and Travis, and I applaud Travis. My own feeling is that no one on the Avery salvage yard was involved in the murder of Teresa Hallbark.
I agree.
But notice what the investigators did. The investigators dropped the grenade in the middle of that family and caused chaos, whereby each of them were pointing a finger at each other.
That's right.
So notice what they did with Bobby, and I agree with Sunshine Christina. Bobby Dassey was a compromised witness. It's either me or my uncle or both of us. So hence, he was pressured to say the things that he said. And now look at all the infighting that's going on in the family. That's exactly what law enforcement wants. Fighting, mistrust, people pointing a finger at each other. That's what they want.
Well, they're divided. They divided so there's not a united front from the family for support for the guys. Even though, I'm sure they feel they're innocent, but as you said, they've dropped this grenade right in the middle of them, and it's caused a lot of damage in the family. Crockett, I'm going to address this now because Crockett's made a good statement here. However, Barb, Scott, Bobby all know the truth about both Bobby and Scott's testimony, and that's true. Because we know that Scott Haddock's statements altered from November 10th, 2005 until the time he testified. They were really altered, and that's a huge, huge problem for me. And there's no way that a jury would not take note of that. There's no way.
But Jack, that could all be explained by manipulation of the witnesses.
That's right.
So Kratz would have talked to both Bobby Dassey and Scott Tadich and say, look, you guys need to alibi each other. Why? So you're out of the Avery salvage yard, you're out of the picture. So what you notice is happening. You have a tunnel vision approach whereby you're providing an alibi or not asking for an alibi on any other suspect. So Bobby Dassey, who saw Teresa Horbach, that's a fact, he's alibied by Scott Tadich. Scott Tadich alibis Bobby Dassey. So hence, they're out of the picture. Now, you don't ask for an alibi of anybody else. Hence, where is the spotlight now on? It's on Stephen Avery. The spotlight is firmly on Stephen. He is isolated. What did the investigators do to Chuck and Earl and Barb? Your brother is guilty because we found this, we found that, we found that. And remember the phone calls? Chuck is going, jeepers. I don't know about that. I'm starting to doubt his innocence. So hence, what they did was they isolated Stephen and turned his own family against him. That was their plan. What did Kratz and Pagel do with the media that we covered yesterday? They had a media blitz to say, no. Stephen is saying planting? No. I spoke to everyone involved. They told me no planting. Boom, let's all go home, boys. It's ridiculous.
Yep. All right, guys. We've been at it a touch over 3 hours, so I think this is, unless somebody's got something more, I think this is probably a good time to end this really good discussion. With this new affidavit from Thomas Buresh. We'll just have to see where it goes. I need more. I'm squarely right there where Rhonda is. I'm in limbo. I'm not going to say the guy's lying because I don't know that he is. He sounds like he's trying to tell the truth, what he remembers. But there are bumps and lumps along the way. So, and again, I'm going to say this one more time because there's a lot of focus on Bobby. And, I get it. I do. I think everyone here gets it. But we're hypocrites if we don't say he's innocent until proven that he did something. We've got the testimony, and that is a problem. There's no doubt. I'd be a hypocrite if I said otherwise, right? Because there's some things that he said that were altered, and there were things that happened during his testimony that, frankly, to me, were terrible. The Mako joke thing that was what Kratz pulled. Willis should have taken him in chambers and wore his ass out. I don't know if it should have caused a mistrial, but it certainly should have been some kind of sanction and a report to the OLR about what Kratz did during trial. He knew what he was doing and he did it on purpose. And it caused a lot of flubub. At the same time, testimony from Bobby and Scott are questionable, and we have every right to question that, and we should. But why did they do it? We also must question that too. So let's be fair towards these people. You think about people's lives now. This is us sitting here on the outside talking about other people that could have faced real problems, legal problems. We just don't know. I just know, as we've said a million times before, we see end result. We don't know the beginning of why someone did something. What was the motive for what they did or what they said, what they testified to. We have to keep that in mind always.
Yeah. I always think about what that guy said he witnessed when Kathleen Zellner came to Manitowoc County. She traveled with an armed driver and 2 armed bodyguards.
Of course she did.
All right. And you don't do that for no reason. You do that when you think the sheriff's department in that town is capable of murder. Plain as
of anything.
Go ahead, Avery.
Oh, I agree with Christina. Yeah, they're capable of anything. So much so that they said it on national TV.
They did. Yep. That's exactly right. So I can't. We don't know what all was said to Kathleen. I'm sure she got a lot of negative messages. I would bet on it. Remember how she was? Remember Dream Killer? I don't know if anyone's watched that documentary with Kathleen Zellner, and was it Ryan Ferguson that she freed?
Yeah, Ryan Ferguson.
And how they treated her, it was terrible. They really went after her legally.
If you guys haven't seen Dream Killer, please watch it. Kathleen Zellner was the lawyer of the main person, and this is all real, of course.
Yeah.
Ryan Ferguson, who was 17 when he got wrongfully convicted. Please watch it. It's an eye opener.
It really is. It's an excellent documentary, and what the state did in Missouri did to Ryan, it's eye opening, man. It blew me away. So it, I don't know, Christina. I would imagine that Kathleen probably got a number of threats, probably subtle and some probably not so subtle. I don't blame her at all for traveling with armed guards.
No, I think that she knows that the cops in that town are capable of anything, like Neverly said, and they don't want this case overturned because they know that he's wrongfully convicted, and they know that there's way more skeletons in the closet.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
They're political. I won't call it, well, maybe A-bombs. I don't know, Doc. What do you think?
Oh, there's no question about it. They need to keep the lid on this at any cost. And I was just going to tell the little story. Remember the gentleman that went up to the Bernsteins? This is after Stephen got arrested. And the gentleman went up to the Bernsteins at their shop and said, I don't think Stephen did this. I think this is somebody else. And they phoned Kacerik, and Kacerik went down there, found out who this guy was, and threatened him with obstruction of justice and to arrest him because he was basically claiming that this guy was harassing the Bernsteins.
Oh, my God.
So quite clearly, Kacerik did not want any word that it could have been somebody else apart from Stephen, which goes to show what Sunshine Christina just said. Hey, if they got to fix up Kathleen Zellner, i.e. by a subtle accident, they'll do it. They don't want to lift the lid on this case because there are many skeletons in the closet, and one of them that comes to mind is the hit and run on Ricky Hochschlatter.
Oh, my God, yes. Well, you know, again, this is, I think about the quarry and what they found there and at Cuss Road, and then what they allegedly found in Avery's burn pit, you know, days later on the 8th. Again, if that's not Teresa, then they've got another murder that they didn't give a shit about. They didn't care. And to me, that's just mind blowing. I guess, you know, we hear so much bad news these days. We're almost nuts, jaded. That doesn't affect us. Think about hearing this, you know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. This would have blown up. This would have been a massive news story. Massive. But, you know, it's just kind of accepted now. It's like, what, you know, whatever. I mean, to me, it's a big deal, but to a lot of people, it's like, so what? Big deal. Or no big deal.
Or there's just so much else. There's so much other toxic, terrible stuff going on. It's just another. Yeah, exactly.
He gets buried.
Yeah, not only Ricky H, but I think that there's compelling evidence that what was done to Stephen was done to Randall Matea. And the
Probably.
in the Pam Claflin case, another Kacerik murder that he handled. And there's other cases as well. The Royal brothers, that case stinks to high heaven. That's a Vogel one where there's no evidence, no physical evidence linking them to the crime. There's no evidence in the Randall Matea case. Both of those cases were made with very sketchy prosecution witnesses. In the Royal case, it was a 12 or 13-year-old girl who later recanted and said she was pressured to lie.
Oh, God.
Yeah, there is also the Ziegelbauer case, which Mary Ziegelbauer is the executive's, Bob Ziegelbauer's sister. She was murdered. And what's interesting about that case is the guy who was convicted claimed from day one he didn't do it. No physical evidence tying him to the crime either. And that was right around the corner from where Gregory Allen was living at the
God
time.
Almighty. God
And
Almighty.
can't mention Gregory Allen without saying Stephen Avery gets freed. Gregory Allen's crimes, multiple other sexual assaults, including the one he's in prison for. Well, now he's on probation for, out of Minnesota, that he committed while Stephen Avery was incarcerated for a crime
Yep.
he committed.
That's
That
right.
was the DNA match came in, and the warrant was issued a month before Teresa disappeared.
That's right.
They were
All
sitting all of that. So who had the biggest motive for Stephen Avery being framed for murder?
state of Wisconsin.
County. That's
Yeah.
right.
Well,
That's
again, can you imagine if that cold case had hit the media, midsummer, whatever, early fall in Manitowoc? It would have blown the depositions apart. They would have blown them up.
If it would have even if it would have hit any time during the investigation into
That's
Teresa
right.
disappearance or the trial, Manitowoc's credibility would have been shot to shit.
In negative numbers, and
Yeah.
that there had to be a lot of worry, especially on the state of Wisconsin, that news would get out. I would really be interested in who all knew the real story about Gregory Allen and this DNA match and this cold case. I'd love to know that list. I'd love to know it.
Well, Peg Slaughter would have known
Oh yeah.
because she would have been involved in the transferring of her prisoner to.
I suspect Fallon knew too.
Fallon would have known because he was in the AG's office. Also, Manitowoc County would have known because it was their mess that they were trying to clean up.
Oh,
And
I'll bet it would only been the very top echelon of anyone that would have known in Manitowoc. I don't think it would have been the regular officers.
Kosurek would have known, Vogel would have known, Griesbach would have known, Rohr would have known. And I just have this feeling that Rohr is bright pink throughout his entire deposition because scared to death that Glenn Pelly have a copy of the DNA match and they're going to ask him about it on record.
Oh boy.
Yeah, now that would have been golden, wouldn't it?
Would it have been even more golden if they'd actually deposed Kosurek and asked him about it? Well, what about this case after you and Vogel alibied this guy, and he goes over here to Hennepin County, Minnesota. He beats the hell out of this woman and sexually assaults her. How about that? What do you think about that? You got any information? Oh my God. Anyway, we could talk for hours about that guy.
Yes.
I will say I want to add one more thing about the Ricky Hofstadter case before we get out of here, get our goodbyes in. There is a CD. It's got, I've forgotten now. I'd have to go back and look. It's got a bunch of interviews, phone call interviews, and so forth that Manitowoc has. I tried to get it from Lieutenant Cummings. Of course, he's the new record custodian. He seems to be pretty reasonable to deal with. I tried to get that recording from him, and he wouldn't let me have it. He says it's an ongoing investigation. This is on Ricky's case. He says it's ongoing investigation. I'm like, really? I'm like, I wrote him back. I'm like, there are people out here that want to help. There's absolutely no reason you can't give me this CD, but he would let me have it. It's got a bunch. I think it's got like, I want to say around 20 interviews on the CD, different calls and so forth. Some of these people are dead too. They're gone. So anyway, I just want to throw that out. All right, let's get our goodbyes in and wrap up. And I first want to thank everyone that's took part in this. It's a polarizing subject. People get upset and all that, and I get it, but we have to keep a clear head. And I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. But if we don't keep a clear head and try to keep our biases as far back, we're going to miss things, and we can't do that. So, I want to thank you, everybody, for some really good conversation, some good chat in the live chatters. I want to thank everyone that came, and of course our panel of people that have come to the open mic. It's an open format for a reason. So first off, I'm going to go down the list. Alice, thanks so much for all your help, and if you got anything going on.
Nothing planned. Nothing planned at the moment, Jack. No. Rhonda's going to be doing something with Daniel's case. They're going to be reading the open statements tomorrow because I said I had nothing planned. So they're going to be doing that tomorrow. So looking forward to that. I would just like to say thank you to everyone in chat. I mean, we had really high numbers in the chat tonight, which is absolutely fantastic. So what I would say is sorry if we didn't get to your question, but if you remember your question that you asked, please put it in the comments below and someone will get to the question for you. If you can't remember what your question was, wait a few hours and go back in and re-listen and open up the live chat, and the live chat replay will play for you and you'll be able to get your question there if you forget what it is, and then just pop it in the comments in the video and hopefully somebody will get to it for you. As I says, it's hard to keep an eye on the chat when there's loads going on, so I do apologize to anybody. Please don't hold that against us. We will get to it as soon as we can. Thank you to my lovely panel. And I look forward to what's happening next week with Reading with the Crew and Open Mic and Rhonda on Monday and Thursday. So thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Yeah, hold on a second here. Okay, next up we have Andy B. Thanks for coming, Andy. Hope you enjoyed tonight's little broadcast.
Yeah, another great one. I hope there's more to come with the this affidavit. Like it seems quite flimsy, not much evidence kind of backing it up, but it does seem to add to a preponderance of evidence about the the RAV. But fingers crossed that something comes of it. Yeah, that's me for tonight. Thank you all. Great stuff again. Don't go.
I hear you, buddy.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. And of course, Cherie.
Yeah, I agree with Andy B. It was excellent and food for thought, and hope there's more to come to corroborate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And we may have put Susan to sleep. She's had a long weekend, so yeah, I think Susan's all sleepy time. I know just Rhonda had to go. She's got things to do. She needs to eat and so forth and so on. So I want to thank her openly here for reading the affidavit and so forth. And she actually did it twice. So, and good conversation. So thanks so much, just Rhonda. And I know she's got something going on tomorrow night. I know Kat, Kitty Cat has put in the comments and put the link in. This is the opening statement of Daniel Holtzclaw's case that we've never seen before. So they were able to purchase that through the help of another supporter for that case. So that's going to be tomorrow afternoon, I think at 4 Central. I think that's right. So if you can come and interested in Daniel's case, please come. So it should be good. So next up we have the Lady in Everly.
Thank you, Jack, for yet another great podcast. Yeah, this news, we can tear it apart all we want, but I choose to wait to see how it's going to unravel. And yeah, I can do that. We waited for 7 years? We can wait a little bit longer.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, Everly, for all the good conversation and the reading of the article. I appreciate that.
Of course, anytime.
You bet. And Sunshine Christina, what do you got?
I got a big shout out to our great panel and everyone in chat for a great conversation. Um, I have one more week of prior commitments that and then after that week, after this week coming, I think I'm gonna be free for a couple of months, and I'm hoping maybe we can restart the CTE podcast. I had done some interesting research into Peg Lautenschlager, and I'm pretty sure I have the entire episode kind of ready to go. There's a really interesting interview I found of her that took place right after she conceded her loss in the AG's election. And so it was like 2 months before Stephen's trial started. And I just think that entire conversation with her is very telling about the power she wielded in Wisconsin and how easily it would be if she wanted to help an investigation go a certain way, how she had the ability to do so. So I think there's a lot to be gleaned from how the AG runs the state, especially in a state like that where it's clear they have no interest in justice. And it's been like that for a really long time. And her son is now the AG. And so I'm sure he doesn't want to do anything to tarnish his mother's memory, especially even Avery. And the apple don't fall far from the tree, right? But yeah, this was a good discussion. I enjoyed it. I think, like Cherie said, there's something about having so many people talking about a case that really allows for different avenues of thought. And that's how we're going to get to the bottom of this, is like they say, just keep talking about it, keep talking till they walking.
That's right. And I totally agree. The more eyes and ears that are on this case, the far better off we are. More is better than just a handful. So thanks again, Christina, for coming, and we certainly look forward for to be able to get more involved as you were before. You have such a really unique way of looking at things, and when you get something in your teeth that you're sure of, you just don't let it go. So thanks for that. Anyway, Dr. Silkman, you want to lead us out?
Yes, a really excellent podcast. I thought it went really, really well. A really fair and balanced discussion. It's important to keep things in perspective in regards to Tom Buresh and what he allegedly saw. But it goes to show that, guys, as a group, as a team, we're right on track. And isn't it amazing how, with the open mics, with the reading with the crew, out of the blue comes another jigsaw puzzle piece. Tom Buresh seeing very likely Teresa Horbach's RAV4 near the Avery salvage yard at very early hours of the morning. And it's amazing. I really like our approach. I really like the way we're chipping away at this case. And can't wait for the next reading with the crew on my Sunday. We're going to have some really interesting discussions about Pam and the RAV4, of course. So, yeah, awesome job, Jack61 and team. Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Doc. Yeah, I've seen the slides, and I can't wait till you get to the ones where the track with Pam and Nicole that they took. Oh boy, that's gonna be fun.
That's an eye opener, that one.
It really is. All right, guys. Again, Monday, tomorrow for Rhonda. I think she has another one on Thursday. Of course, Jeff Jones is on Tuesday night with Discussing a Murder with me and Doc, Big Jeff, Cal, and we had some really good discussions there. We're coming toward the end of MAM 2, so there's not going to be that many more, but we've had a lot of good, interesting discussions. I think we have a live this week as well on Tuesday night. I think that's right. I always get them confused. I can't remember, but I think it is this week. So certainly, if you we just kick around and talk about various things, photos and so forth. So if you're interested in that, that's I think I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm going to try to be right. I think it's at 8:30, 7:30 Central Time. I think that's right when it comes on. So, alrighty. Thanks again, everyone. And with that said, I'm going to say this has been a Five Play production.